was right about the shoe. The shoe was not the same in the pic shown in court as the shoe pulled from the evidence bag by Trooper Proctor.
And you mentioned you're at the hospital. There was a sneaker. One.
Yes.
Bukake! Bukake!
Woo! Good evening, friends. Happy Friday night. Man, oh man. Yes, people. Okay, listen. I'm seeing a lot of chatter in the chat. Okay? I don't know how true these rumors are. Kirk's seems to be pretty up to date on these things. Okay? But the thing is if that's coming from 5150, who the fuck knows what is true? I did go in her chat earlier and troll her a little bit. That was nice. That felt good. Because if she is federally charged or locally charged or whatever charged, I don't care, charged with a crime, good. Because she's a psychotic, evil asshole, and should be charged with a crime, considering the insane spree of insanity that she has fucking engaged in for the last few months. So yeah, good. I hope so. I hope that's the case. I'm happy. It's a good day. So excuse me. She deserves it. Yeah. And it's not even because like I want bad things to happen to her. It's because like I want bad things to stop happening to good people. That's what I want. You know what I mean? Like I need there's people like that should not be just running around allowed to do the shit that she's doing to people. You know, like that's what it boils down to. It's not that I want to see bad things happen to her, you know, it's not like that. It's just that I want to see someone made an example of, so that people don't think it's okay to go around and do this shit, you know, just because you don't like the way things went in your life, which was your own doing on top of everything else. So yeah, I'm not sitting here going, oh, poor Meredith, because I don't give a shit, if I'm being honest. Like we're way past that. Little Miss fucking, I'm going after this person, you're next, threatening, and fuck that. You know, and fucking the waterworks sitting there e-begging on her shit earlier, crying. Like, no, dude, no. Where's the tough little baddie that decided to fucking go after everybody? Where's that person now all of a sudden? Where's that person? You know what I mean? Go fuck yourself. You know, now it's, oh, poor me. Poor me. Look what's happening to me. Yeah, look what's happening to you. Look what you did. You pissed your fucking life away. It's always somebody else's fault, right? That you lost your job. Not because you fucking acted like a complete and utter fucking asshole terrorist on the internet. Not because of that. No, that couldn't be because of that. Unreal. Like, who acts like that when they're a vice president of a bank, dude? Who the fuck acts like that? Crazy people, assholes. That's the answer. But so the McAlberts filed a motion to dismiss, which a lot of people went over. I did not. But Karen Reed has filed a response to this motion to dismiss. And I think it's like 56 pages, 54 pages, actually. And we are going to read it. And I want to make a big shout out to Kyle Sharkey. Thank you so much, Kyle Sharkey, for sending me this. And wait a second. We've got, hold on. Eth Joe gifted 5 memberships earlier, and Graham Tam gifted 5 memberships as well. Holy jeez, what is... So hopefully you folks that wanted memberships will get them. Now, tonight I won't be switching it over to members only, because this won't be a petty stream. This is stuff that we talk about. This is general informative content. This is for mass consumption, for all consumption. This is for everyone. So yes, we won't be there's no reason to switch it over to members only today, because this is not a petty stream. This is an update. So this is how we'll spend my Friday evening, at least. Let me go ahead and share this real quick, because it's 54 pages, so I don't want to be like doing this fucking forever all night. And of course, a lot of the legal mumbo jumbo will skip over. That's the stuff you log on to Melanie Little and Brother Counsel and those types for, because they're going to give you a more in-depth explanation as far as the legalities of these things. Okay. I don't know who Eddie is, but okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. So this right here says United States District Court, District of Massachusetts. Karen Reed being the plaintiff versus Michael Proctor. Ew, fucking Michael fucking Proctor. Let's just give them a boo as I read these off. Michael Proctor, Sergeant Yuri Bukaki, and in his personal capacity. Ryan Albert, Nicole Albert, Jen McCabe, Matthew McCabe, Brian Higgins. Yeah, you're all fucking terrible. Every single one of you.
You suck.
Terrible, terrible fucking people. In the amended complaint, introduction. For 3.5 years, plaintiff Karen Reed was wrongly accused of homicide and subjected to suspicion, arrest, 2 prosecutions, and public condemnation, all resulting from the gross misconduct of the Massachusetts State Police, the MSP, if you will, and those working in tandem with the MSP to shield from liability the party or parties responsible for the death of Boston police officer John O'Keefe III. Now, after being acquitted of all charges relating to Mr. O'Keefe's death, Ms. Reed brings this action to recover for and address the actions of those actually involved in Mr. O'Keefe's death and the law enforcement officers who objectively failed to ensure that justice was sought and served in the aftermath of January 29th, 2022. Karen Reed did not kill her then boyfriend, Mr. O'Keefe. Rather, in the early morning hours of January 29th, Mr. O'Keefe was killed in defendants Brian and Nicole Albert's home at 34 Fairview Road in Canton house in an altercation during a late night house party with other defendants, collectively the house defendants, after a night of heavy drinking. The house defendants responsible. Now, when they say house defendants, people, obviously, they're talking about the McAlberts. The house defendants responsible for Mr. O'Keefe's death, some of whom had professional experience with police investigations, concocted a plan immediately after the altercation to avoid culpability and to frame Karen Reed. Rather than call first responders for help, among other actions, the House defendants conducted a Google search for information about how long to die in the cold, moved Mr. O'Keefe's body outside, and placed him on the Albert's front lawn near the road to make it look like Mr. O'Keefe was hit by a vehicle and he died in the snow without ever coming into the house that night. Mr. O'Keefe's body remained on the Albert's lawn until Karen Reed found him later that morning. From the beginning, investigators from the MSP allowed the House defendants to direct the investigation away from themselves and towards Ms. Reed. The House defendants were well connected and close social group with strong ties to law enforcement. The Alberts are a prominent family in Canton, and the investigating police officers knew them well. The lead investigator for the MSP, Michael Proctor, grew up in Canton and resides there to this day. He has been and remains close personal friends with the Albert family. House defendant Brian Albert was a longtime Boston police officer, and House defendant Brian Higgins was an agent with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. Adhering to the unwritten rule of protecting their own, Proctor and his MSP colleagues intentionally disregarded the obvious and compelling evidence tying the House defendants to Mr. O'Keefe's murder. Specifically, Mr. O'Keefe's injuries were consistent with a physical altercation. He had bruises and lacerations on his face and a deep gash to the back of the head, suggesting that he was punched and fell backwards, hitting his head on a ridged surface. He also had dog bite wounds and scratches on his right arm and forearm. Equally evident, Mr. O'Keefe did not have a single injury consistent with being struck by a vehicle. He did not have any broken bones or even a bruise on his legs, feet, arms, shoulders, torso, back, ribs, or anywhere below his neck that a medical examiner would otherwise expect to find on a person struck and killed by an impact from a 3-ton vehicle. And to erase any doubt, the Commonwealth's own medical examiner, the pathologist who conducted the autopsy for the Commonwealth, concluded that Mr. O'Keefe's body showed no signs of a vehicular strike. Despite that, Proctor and others shielded the House defendants by intentionally sidestepping fundamental investigatory procedures. propelled by the House defendant's false statements, including that Mr. O'Keefe never went into the house, quote unquote. Proctor reported in text messages just hours into the investigation that the House defendants weren't going to get any shit for this, quote unquote, because he's, Brian Albert, a Boston cop, quote unquote. And Proctor was determined to make the investigation cut and dry, quote unquote, by bringing charges against the girl, quote unquote. Indeed, Proctor made his intentions clear in writing. Karen Reed had zero chance of skating. She's fucked, quote unquote. This pronouncement was a mere 16 hours after Mr. O'Keefe's body was discovered on the Albert's lawn. And Proctor had even walked into the house, and Proctor had not even walked into the house, let alone investigated inside the house. True to his promise, Proctor and his colleagues did not search the house for blood evidence resulting from the gash to the back of Mr. O'Keefe's head, or for fingerprints, or for DNA evidence, which right there is doubt. You would think would have been plenty of doubt. Proctor did not search the house despite the fact that Mr. O'Keefe was discovered without a winter coat, without the hat that several witnesses said he had been wearing that night, and without his left shoe, people, without his left shoe. Okay? Do you understand? Without his left shoe.
To the glare of the Commonwealth has showcase
Thanks, baby AJ. At Proctor's direction, the house was never processed by a criminalist or even photographed. No member of the MSP, including Proctor, set foot inside 34 Fairview Road for nearly a week. The police did not examine or take evidence from the Albert's German Shepherd that was in the house on January 29th, a dog that had a history of attacking other dogs and people. Neither Proctor nor any of the MSP troopers conducted physical examinations of the house defendants for evidence of involvement in the altercation, such as marks on their hands, knuckles, or face, or bruises on their bodies. They did not seize or search the house defendants' phones, except that which belonged to Jennifer McCabe, who turned her phone over only after making settings changes to the phone on February 2nd, 2022. Holy shit. Wait a second, people. Wait. What?
Oh, here we go.
I think we got a super cat. Super cat. I think we got a super cat. Super cat. Super cat. Super cat. I think we got a super cat.
How dare you?
Sarah, be creative. Thank you so much. You were right about the shoe. I know. Thank you so much. And not that Dina, damn it. Eddie's my husband, just saying thanks for the stream, dink. Oh, okay. Well, you said don't tell. I didn't say that's why I didn't read the Cash App out loud. I ain't trying to get you in trouble with nobody. You know what I'm saying? But thank you for the $50 Cash App. I appreciate that. Amazing. They conducted only perfunctory, unrecorded conversations with Proctor's friends and acquaintances without any attempt to corroborate their stories. They permitted would-be witnesses to communicate with each other and coordinate their stories before any formal interviews. They allowed critical evidence to be manipulated in some instances and outright destroyed in others. In short, by focusing the investigation solely on Miss Reed and implicitly directed by the House defendants through the misrepresentations they made to police, Proctor and his colleagues disregarded and failed to obtain pertinent interviews and other critical evidence from the House defendants that cannot now be recovered or recreated. Proctor also secretly communicated with the Alberts on his personal phone, deliberately back-channeling those communications to circumvent his state-issued device, and used his sister as conduit For instance, on multiple occasions, Proctor disclosed critical and confidential information about the instigation or about the investigation to his sister, who passed the information to her close friend, Julie Albert, Brian Albert's sister-in-law. Julie Albert then passed the same information on to the rest of her family and the House defendants. Part of these communications included Julie Albert's promise to buy Proctor a thank you gift for handling this investigation in a manner that intentionally avoided implicating the House defendants and singularly focused on Ms. Reed. Oh my God, hold on. And hey girl, hey 84, praying for a petty stream tonight. Pay for what petty stream? Petty stream for what? What's there to go petty about tonight? I already went petty as fuck last night. Unless I'm missing something. If I'm missing something, let me know. Maybe I will. I don't know. Listen, people, full disclosure, okay? I'm watching Les Miserables. Okay. I'm about halfway. I'm not even halfway through it yet. I don't think. I think it's about to be where the wars and stuff, all the battles start happening. But it's pretty cool. I mean, it's pretty cool to see Wolverine singing and Maximus Decimus Meridius, General Maximus Decimus Meridius singing as well. Doesn't sing as good as Wolverine, but he sings pretty good in Les Miserables. The thing is, though, like I thought Les Miserables was like a punk rocker, right? So far I'm not seeing any dude named Les. Like I'm waiting to see who's Les. Nobody has explained who Les is. So Les Miserable is who? Because that's where I'm lost. Like I get the movie so far, so I'm trying to figure out. Like you got Maximus Decimus Meridius, who's like this dude who was like a prison guard / soldier / whatever the fuck / bounty hunter, whatever. Wolverine, they're all singing to each other and shit. And Wolverine is singing, right? And he's on the run. Like he gets paroled, but he breaks his parole. Then he steals silver. Then the priest is like, here, oh man, you didn't steal that silver. You forgot some. Here you go. But now you have to be a good man. And then he's like, all right, maybe that's it. Maybe he's going to be less miserable. Okay. But they forgot an S. So I was thinking that's why it's like, it's a dude's name, right? Less miserable. I get it. You'll be less miserable when you got a lot of silver, right? So I'm watching Les Miserables, I'm waiting to find out who Les is. But so far, yeah, and now he took in some little girl. He broke his parole like again. He was the mayor and shit. And then he broke his parole again. And then Maximus Decimus Meridius shows up and he's like, fucking give me like 2 days. And Maximus is like, bro, fuck you. You gave me your word before and you broke it. And then fucking like Wolverine's like, oh, but my word is good. There is a little girl who needs me. And then he's like, fuck yeah, okay. And then he goes and does it, right? And he gets the girl and then fucking he like gets the chick from Fight Club and Borat to like sell him the kid, which is fucking weird already. But as long as he's not going to do no creepy shit, I guess that's okay. But you can't just go around buying kids, I mean, how's that not trafficking? So, I don't know. You know what I mean? So, but all right. Wolverine seems like a good dude. I mean, but he was in prison. You know what I'm saying? I know it was just like a bite of bread, that he got locked up for, but still, I mean, he was in prison. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. But now, I don't know. It's like 8 years later. And so like, that's where I'm at in the movie. So, yeah. And I guess maybe less miserable is like a dude in the French army or some shit. I don't know, man. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. We'll watch it, figure it out. I mean, and by we, I mean the editorial we, me. Let me keep reading this. But that's what I'm doing tonight. I'm not trying to go petty tonight because I'm watching Less Miserable. So, and I need to find out who Les is. Proctor then went so far as to manufacture evidence to ensure that Miss Reed, not his friends and fellow law enforcement officers, was blamed for Mr. O'Keefe's death. This included planting evidence at the scene on Mr. O'Keefe's clothes and on Ms. Reed's vehicle to support the false narrative that Ms. Reed hit Mr. O'Keefe with her car, even though he knew Mr. O'Keefe's injuries were inconsistent with a motor vehicle strike and consistent with a physical altercation and dog attack. Far from conducting an objective investigation with integrity, Proctor personally sexualized and dehumanized Ms. Reed throughout the investigation, specifically Proctor's private communications to his high school buddies, sister, and MSP colleagues. Yikes. That he believed would never be discovered, expose the corruption and bias at the core of the MSP's entire investigation. Specifically, only hours into the investigation, in a text chain with 8 of his high school buddies, Proctor stated that Miss Reed that Ms. Reed is a whack job cunt, retarded, a nutbag, and a babe with no ass. Proctor further ridiculed and derided Ms. Reed for her serious medical condition, stating that her balloon knot, quote unquote, leaked poo, quote unquote. In other private text messages to his MSP supervisors and colleagues, Proctor bragged that while conducting a search of Miss Reed's phone, he was looking for naked pictures of Ms. Reed. Disappointed, he reported that there were no nudes so far, quote unquote. In an unfiltered utterance, Proctor revealed his true mindset. Hopefully she kills herself, quote unquote. Jesus. Burn Bright Karen, member for 1 month. Are you sure Jay Brill wasn't performing as a prisoner? No. Jay Brill is a production like Less Miserable is way too below someone of the Jay Brill caliber. Okay. I mean, obviously that movie was cheap. Obviously, I mean, it was horribly performed. In comparison, even though the movie's brilliant, it doesn't even in comparison, it pales to anything that would dare utter the involvement of Jay Brill publicly. So, Kevin from South Boston just became a member. Welcome to Logic, my friend. Indeed, Proctor's supervisors in the MSP knew about and condoned Proctor's unlawful conduct, and in some instances, expressly encouraged the flagrant abuse of power. For example, on one occasion, Proctor's immediate supervisor, Yuri Bukaki, responded with a thumbs up to a text calling Miss Reed retarded. Jesus. Proctor's supervisors and the MSP knew Proctor had a close relationship with the Alberts and that he made no secret of the bias against Miss Reed, demonstrating a clear prejudice against her from the outset. Oh my God, wait a second. West Virginia country just gifted 5 memberships for all the Mountaineers out there. Morgantown WV. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Indeed, Proctor's supervisors and MSP knew about and condoned. I already read that shit. MSP, let's see. Thumbs up, calling Miss Reed retarded. Proctor's supervisors and the MSP knew Proctor had a close relationship with the Alberts and that he made no secret of his bias against Miss Reed, demonstrating a clear prejudice against her from the outset. Relying on manufactured evidence, actively ignoring exculpatory evidence, and without investigating obvious signs pointing towards the House defendants, the Commonwealth secured 2 separate arrest warrants for Ms. Reed and knowingly baseless indictment against her, and then wrongfully prosecuted her for murder twice. As alleged below, these unlawful acts not only underlie plaintiff's meritless wrongful death claim against Ms. Reed, but they also form the foundation for Ms. Reed's claims against the defendants. These acts violated Ms. Reed's state and federal constitutional rights, the Massachusetts Civil Rights Act, and well-established Massachusetts tort principles. On June 18th, 2025, after a 2-month trial, a jury rejected the Commonwealth's theory, in part because the overwhelming physical, scientific, and medical evidence established that Miss Reed's vehicle did not strike Mr. O'Keefe, and that Mr. O'Keefe's injuries did not come from a vehicle strike. Although Miss Reed was ultimately and finally acquitted of all charges related to the death of Mr. O'Keefe, Proctor was fired, and nearly every MSP officer in Proctor's chain of command was disciplined for the egregious abuses and misdeeds. The Commonwealth still has not sought or provided justice, not to the O'Keefe family, not to the, oh man, my screen was dirty, and I swear I read that word as torth. Not to the O'Keefe family, and not to the community at large, and certainly not Miss Reed. Let him know, Bob.
What could be more egregious? What could be more misleading than that? And what could be more important?
Thank you, Bob. The Goodmans gifted 5 memberships, people. Thank you so much, Goodmans. In response, the Commonwealth has offered only empty platitudes instead of solutions. The head of MSP, Colonel Geoffrey Noble, stated, the events of the last 3 years have challenged our department. Let me try this in a Boston accent. I don't even know what this guy sounds like, but I'm just going to assume. The events of these last 3 years have challenged our department to thoroughly review our actions and take concrete steps to deliver advanced investigative training, ensure appropriate oversight, and enhance accountability. Under my direction as Colonel, the state police has and will continue to improve in these regards. In an interview with the Boston Herald, Noble acknowledged the systematic nature of MSP's conduct in Ms. Reed's case. I'm eyes wide open to a culture issue that I have concerns with as it relates to Trooper Proctor. These hollow words do nothing to right the devastating wrongs that have been visited on Ms. Reed. Colonel Noble's words confess a sickness deep in the marrow of the MSP, but offer no remedy, no medicine, no relief to someone so brutally victimized by it. On March 19th, 2025, following the public disclosure of Proctor's illegal and unethical conduct related to the Reed investigation, the MSP's trial board found Michael Proctor guilty of a Class A violation, which included that he was biased in his dealings with a homicide suspect and or brought otherwise himself and the Massachusetts State Police into disrepute. Ms. Reed's life was not merely turned upside down by the MSPs and the House defendants' misconduct. It was forever changed by the defendants' transgression and wrongdoing. The years of uncertainty and unimaginable emotional distress have left lasting scars that will never heal. At the same time, neither Mr. O'Keefe nor his family has received justice. His killer or killers still walk free. By asserting her claims against MSP, Proctor, his supervisors, the town of Canton, and the House defendants, Ms. Reed seeks, at minimum, to confront and redress these wrongs and others. More importantly, she seeks to force the Commonwealth to fulfill its duty to stop law enforcement from trampling the innocent to protect their own. The parties. Plaintiff Karen Reed is an individual residing in North Dighton, Massachusetts. Defendant Michael Proctor is a former Massachusetts State Police trooper residing in Canton, Massachusetts. He is being sued in his personal capacity. Defendant Sergeant Yuri Bukaki is a Massachusetts State Police trooper residing in Stoughton, Massachusetts. He is being sued in his personal capacity. Defendant Lieutenant Brian Tully is a Massachusetts State Police trooper and a douchebag residing in Hingham, Massachusetts. He is being sued in his personal capacity. Defendant Brian Albert is an individual residing in Norwood, Massachusetts. Defendant Nicole Albert is an individual residing in Norwood, Massachusetts. Defendant Jennifer McCabe is an individual residing in Canton, Massachusetts. Defendant Matthew McCabe is an individual residing in Canton, Massachusetts. Defendant Brian Higgins is an individual residing in Sandwich, Massachusetts. And all of them collectively are assholes. The court has subject matter jurisdiction over this case pursuant to blah, 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 blah. This case was removed by the court by certain defendants pursuant to blah, 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 blah. Facts common to all counts: Mr. O'Keefe's death. Before his death, Mr. O'Keefe and Miss Reed were dating. On the evening of January 28, 2022, Mr. O'Keefe and Miss Reed went out for the night. They went first to CF McCarthy's in Canton, where they had several drinks. They then went to the Waterfall Bar in Canton. There they met up with a group of acquaintances, including Brian Albert, his wife, Nicole Albert, Brian's brother, Chris Albert, and his wife, Julie, Jennifer McCabe, Nicole's sister, and Brian's sister-in-law, her husband, Matthew McCabe, and Brian Higgins. The group of acquaintances had several drinks and planned to continue the party back at the Alberts' home in Canton at 34 Fairview Road, the house. House defendants Jennifer McCabe told John O'Keefe that he should come to the house. The group had overlapping social relationships. At the time, Brian Albert was a Boston police officer, as was Mr. O'Keefe's, though they did not know each other well. Brian Albert and Brian Higgins were close friends. Higgins resided in Canton for many years through January 2022 and was an officer with the ATF. He also was permitted to keep an office at the Canton Police Department alongside Brian Albert's brother, Canton Police Detective Kevin Albert. Kevin Albert had a professional and social relationship with Michael Proctor, as well as with Brian Higgins. Higgins had been on a trip with both Brian and Kevin Albert in the days preceding January 29th, 2022. Brian and Nicole Albert's son, Brian Albert Jr., and friends were already at the house for Brian Jr.'s birthday. In addition, Colin Albert, Brian Albert's nephew, was present. Ms. Reed and Mr. O'Keefe had never been to the house before January 29, 2022. They arrived in front of the house, in front of the Alberts' house around 12:20. Ms. Reed was reluctant to attend the party for several reasons, including that she was unsure whether they were at the correct location and whether they were even welcome to a late night party. Mr. O'Keefe got out of Ms. Reed's SUV and indicated that he would check out the party and report back to her. Mr. O'Keefe walked toward the front door, garage door area of the house and entered one of the two doors. According to Mr. O'Keefe's Apple Health data, his final steps covered just enough distance to get from the foot of the driveway and into the house or garage. A period of time passed without any word from Mr. O'Keefe. Ms. Reed, who was still hesitant to join, presumed that Mr. O'Keefe intended to stay, and therefore she left to go home without him. At some point, after entering the house garage, Mr. O'Keefe was involved in a physical altercation, either inside the house or garage. During that altercation, the Alberts German Shepherd attacked him, and Mr. O'Keefe sustained multiple dog bites and scratches on his right arm. He also suffered an incapacitating Okay, here we go with the medical stuff. I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to mispronounce everything. Contra-cups wound on the back of his head. Mr. O'Keefe's head wound was caused by falling backward and striking a ridged surface or rigid surface. The Alberts garage contains such surfaces. By contrast, the head wound would not have been caused by a vehicle strike or falling backwards onto a flat, cold lawn like the Alberts. That still is fucking, it's so ridiculous it makes me laugh. And it makes me mad that it makes me laugh. I don't want to be laughing about the details of a Boston cop's death that he still hasn't gotten justice for. I don't want to laugh about that shit, but I can't help but laugh at how fucking ridiculous these fucking people expect us to believe this fucking story. It's crazy that they expect us to believe that fucking John was either even hit by a car, much less that he fell backwards and cracked his head open on fucking cold grass, dude. Get the fuck out of my face with that. That is fucking asinine. Nobody believes that. And then he scratched up his arm from the taillight? Get the fuck out of here with that. That's insane. Elaine Piercy, welcome to Logic. Thank you so much. And Barbara just sent a $15 Venmo. That's very sweet. Thank you so much. No note, though, but I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Yeah, unreal. Like, the audacity that they think that anybody would fucking believe that shit. Like Dr. Wolf, not our Dr. Wolf, Dr. Wolf that went up there and tried to act like that is a fucking thing. Like, only made himself look stupid. Like, nobody, dude, like, all you need is Bob to get up there and question this guy, you know? Like, that's it. Like, nobody's going to believe that this guy, nobody's going to believe that that's a thing. That somebody could split their head open like that, crack their skull on a fucking, on cold grass. Get the fuck out of here. Like brain trauma for sure, but not a cracked skull, dude. That's not going to happen. Kel wants to know, gifted a membership. All right, people. Oh, wait, having fun, 54. Welcome to Logic. Thank you for becoming a member. Let's see here. At some point after entering the house garage, Mr. O'Keefe was involved in a physical altercation either inside the house or garage. During the altercation, the Albert's German Shepherd attacked him, and Mr. O'Keefe sustained multiple dog bites and scratches on his right arm. He also suffered an incapacitating... Oh, I already read all this shit. Okay, sorry. Here we go. Because of their knowledge of criminal investigations, the Alberts, the McCabe's, and Higgins, the House defendants, knew that calling for medical care to help save Mr. O'Keefe's life would trigger immediate and irreversible risk of their own criminal exposure. Therefore, at least the five of them agreed on a simple plan to exonerate themselves and implicate Miss Reed. They would tell anyone who inquired that Mr. O'Keefe never entered the house and hide evidence that he was there, including his body. Sometime during the night, they repositioned a Ford Edge vehicle at a spot adjacent to the front lawn, which obscured the view of that area of the lawn from potential passerby. At some point further in the night, they carried or dragged Mr. O'Keefe's body to the same area in the yard, close to where one or more of them later claimed Miss Reed dropped off Mr. O'Keefe earlier that night. The plan was devised to make it appear that Mr. O'Keefe had been struck by Miss Reed's vehicle and then died as a result of exposure to the cold. Get the fuck out of my face with that. Mr. O'Keefe was either dead when the house defendants left him on the Alberts lawn, or he died shortly thereafter. After the physical altercation, Higgins left the house and drove to the Canton Police Department in the middle of the night. He later told investigators he had to do some quote unquote administrative work, but then changed his story subsequently, stating that he drove to the station because he had to move cars in the parking lot due to the snowstorm, even though he could have done that earlier that evening when he was at the station to drop off Kevin Albert. However, video from inside the station shows Higgins walking down the hallway and surreptitiously entering offices while wearing a hoodie to obscure his face. Surveillance video outside reveals Higgins transporting a large bag from one vehicle to another before driving away. After leaving the police station, Higgins and Brian Albert continued to coordinate their stories by calling each other multiple times in the early morning hours and ultimately spoke with each other on their cell phones at 2:22 a.m. Later, both Brian Albert and Higgins denied the existence of these phone calls, and then when confronted by the existence by a separate law enforcement agent, a non-MSP and non-CPD law enforcement agency at a separate proceeding, aka the FBI, they coordinated the same exact lie, falsely claiming the multiple calls answers and hang-ups were just butt dials. However, 5 minutes after the Higgins-Albert call, Miss McCabe performed a Google search on her phone at 2:27 a.m., house logged to dying cold, misspelling the first word. Ms. Reed searches for Mr. O'Keefe. Ms. Reed began the search for Mr. O'Keefe on January 29th, just before 5 a.m., when she awoke and realized he had not returned home. She phoned House Defendant Jennifer McCabe, who already knew exactly what had happened to Mr. O'Keefe. McCabe insisted that Ms. Reed drive to Ms. McCabe's house rather than 34 Fairview Road, which Ms. Reed did. At the exact same minute, Ms. Reed left Mr. O'Keefe's home at 5:07. McCabe made a 38-second phone call to her sister, Nicole Albert, at 34 Fairview. Nicole Albert said she was asleep until after 6 a.m., and Jennifer McCabe, when confronted with the call artifact at trial, claimed not to have any knowledge of the call. Ms. Reed and McCabe were then joined by Carrie Roberts, and the three of them left the McCabe residence. However, rather than go to 34 Fairview, oddly, McCabe directed them to go back to Mr. O'Keefe's home, where Ms. Reed had just come from. After the three of them finally drove to 34 Fairview, the illogical McCabe directed route to 34 Fairview was intentional. The illogical McCabe directed route to 34 Fairview was intentional. It allowed the House defendants more time to finish creating the scene and hiding evidence before Mr. O'Keefe's body was discovered on the Alberts lawn and first responders arrived. As they approached the house, with Roberts driving, Miss Reed saw Mr. O'Keefe almost immediately. She screamed for Roberts to stop the vehicle and jumped from the moving car to run to Mr. O'Keefe. She began rendering aid, including CPR. Now, this is interesting because the way Karen Reed's team is painting this picture is exactly pretty much how we've always seen it. Because there's no reason, if they're getting in the car to go look for John, the first place that one would logically go to is the last place that she saw him, the last place that anybody knew he was supposed to be at. But Jennifer McCabe insisted on going right back to the very place that Karen Reed had just come from. So, I mean, that makes no sense to me. Like, immediately I'm going to be like, let's go to the last place. The first place I'm going to look is the last place they were seen. So when they finally get there, Karen Reed is the one who finally sees that she sees him. So why would Karen Reed want to go to 34 Fairview first and not them? Because it comes off like Jennifer McCabe deliberately was trying to kill time to ensure John's death, to ensure that he wasn't going to wake up and talk. Let's burn time let's avoid going to 34 Fairview for as long as we can, disguised as we're out looking for him. As the House defendants had planned, Mr. O'Keefe's body was discovered in front of the Alberts house, near a flagpole and fire hydrant on the left side of the Alberts property, as seen from the roadside. The Ford Edge, which had been parked in a position to obscure Mr. O'Keefe's body in the middle of the night, had been moved. While Roberts joined Miss Reed with administering CPR, McCabe did not help or even approach Mr. O'Keefe. Rather, she sat in the cab of the vehicle, called 911, and reported that there's a man passed out in the snow. A guy. Despite knowing that her brother-in-law, Brian Albert, a police officer and first responder, was just feet away inside the house, Miss McCabe never went into the house or requested that Albert come down to help Mr. O'Keefe. Rather, as Mr. O'Keefe lay dying in the snow, Miss McCabe stood and watched with no fear, urgency, or even concern for her family members residing more feet away. I mean, that is the thing that you just cannot escape from. You want to know how I know that Jennifer McCabe knew about John and what happened there at 34 Fairview? You want to know how I know this in my heart, in my soul? Is because she showed no concern for anyone inside that house. There's a guy dead on the lawn. The first thing anyone would do is run inside the house to see if their sister is okay and their brother-in-law is okay and the kids. That's the first thing anybody with a halfway decent heart, a normal mom would do. That is how I know deep in my heart that Jennifer McCabe Googled how long to die in cold at 2:27 a.m. That's how I know. Because when she got on the phone with her sister, the call that she denied taking place, she was extremely calm and asking, "Are you coming out here?" Not, "Are you okay? What's happening? Fucking John's dead on the lawn. What's happening? What the fuck is going on?" None of that. That didn't happen. What happened was she quietly called her sister and then tried to deny that the phone call took place, even though John's voicemail picked it up and we heard it. And the phone call shows up on the call logs as well. And her way to do this is just deny it. Nope, didn't happen. No way. Didn't happen. That on top of the fact that she showed absolutely no sense of urgency to find out the status of the safety of her family. This is her family. This is her sister's house, sister's husband. Anything could have happened. If she doesn't know what happened, then she's running into that house or trying to run into that house or calling 911 and saying, "This man is dead. He looks dead to me. And I want to know if my sister's okay. Like, please send somebody right now and go into the house. I need to know if my sister's okay." And I'd be calling my sister over and over again, trying to talk to her. None of Jen McCabe's behavior on the early morning hours of January 29th, 2022 are indicative of a person who didn't know what happened to John O'Keefe. They just aren't. She knew. Everything says that she knew. The CPD were the first on the scene shortly after 6 a.m. At the time, there was no evidence that Mr. O'Keefe had been hit by a vehicle. In fact, the evidence suggested just the opposite. His body did not show signs of trauma commonly associated with being struck by a car. There were no bone fragments there were no bone fractures or trauma to his lower body, his torso, or any other part of his body as investigators would expect from a vehicle strike. Rather, Mr. O'Keefe's injuries were consistent with being physically assaulted to the face and head and attacked by a dog. For good reason, the ranking CPD officer on the scene, Sergeant Michael Lank, opined on a telephone call to MSP Homicide captured on a dash cam audio that Mr. O'Keefe looked like he had been in a fight. Moreover, the initial search conducted by Canton police officers revealed that there was no vehicle debris on the lawn at 34 Fairview, let alone any debris at or near Mr. O'Keefe's body. Not a single piece of taillight material was discovered on the lawn or on the roadway that morning, notwithstanding multiple searches and the use of a leaf blower to remove snow. Gallagher. Tellingly, despite the commotion outside, including more than a dozen first responders, 3 police cruisers, 2 ambulances, a ladder fire engine, all with their emergency lights flashing, and at least 2 civilian vehicles, plus Miss Reed screams upon finding Mr. O'Keefe's body. No one from the Alberts house, including police officer Brian Albert, who is a trained first responder, ever went outside to see what was happening, let alone help. They wanted to avoid scrutiny from the police investigators. Sergeant Lank was a longtime friend of the Alberts and the first law enforcement officer to enter the house. He spoke to the Alberts and the McCabe's. Pursuant to their plan, the Alberts and the McCabe's told Sergeant Lank that Mr. O'Keefe had never entered the Alberts house the night before. The Alberts and McCabe's statements were false. Mr. O'Keefe arrived at and entered the house or garage where he was assaulted, attacked by the Alberts dog, and suffered a fatal injury to the back of the head. Despite Mr. O'Keefe's injuries being wholly inconsistent with the story the House defendants were now telling him, neither Sergeant Lank nor the other member of the CPD searched the house to determine whether the occupants or anyone else were involved in Mr. O'Keefe's death, nor did they request to search the occupants' cell phones, observe their bodies for evidence of a fight, or even secure the scene where Mr. O'Keefe's body was found. They failed to do so because the bias born of friendship and loyalty in favor of the Alberts and McCabe's. After Sergeant Lank returned to the CPD 3 hours after the discovery of Mr. O'Keefe's body and more than 2 hours after being interviewed at the Alberts home that morning, Jennifer McCabe called Sergeant Lank to report that she recalled additional information. Except for this one call to Sergeant Lank, Miss McCabe deleted from her phone evidence of all other phone calls she made and received from January 28th to just before 9 a.m. on January 29th. As part of the plan to implicate Ms. Reed and remove suspicion from the House defendants, she falsely told Sergeant Lank that Ms. Reed told her twice that morning, "I hope I didn't hit him." More than a year later, at a separate proceeding, Ms. McCabe changed her story on this topic yet again. In furtherance of the House defendants' plan, McCabe then falsely reported that Ms. Reed outright confessed to hitting Mr. O'Keefe right after she first found him in the snow. Proctor leads MSP investigation despite conflicts. Michael Proctor was assigned as the case officer and primary responsibility for the MSP investigation of Mr. O'Keefe's death. Sergeant Yuri Bukaki was Proctor's direct supervisor. Lieutenant Brian Tully, dickhead, was the supervisory officer at the Norfolk County State Police Detective Unit and thus supervised both Bukaki and Proctor. In their roles, Bukaki and Tully both knew at all times the exact intent of Proctor's misconduct in investigating Mr. O'Keefe's death as described below. This is fun stuff, folks. And I'm only on page 15, folks. From the beginning, Proctor should never have been assigned as an investigating officer, let alone the lead investigator. He grew up and resides in Canton as a good friend of the Alberts and had known the family for years. Proctor and Julie Albert, Brian Albert's sister-in-law, had each other's personal cell phone numbers. In fact, just days before the Mr. O'Keefe's death, Proctor communicated with Julie Albert about babysitting Proctor's minor child. Proctor's sister, Courtney, was also a close friend of Julie and lived walking distance to the Alberts home at 34 Fairview Road. In fact, Proctor's own mother referred to the Alberts as the Proctor's second family. The existence of these relationships was intentionally suppressed by Proctor and other members of the MSP, including Bukaki and Tully, in an effort to ensure that the House defendants were protected and that Miss Reed's right to a fair investigation and trial was undetermined, as well as charging falsely a independent journalist, award-winning independent journalist, and plotting to have his bail revoked. So he spent 60 days in jail while he is still awaiting trial for these bogus charges. Proctor, Bukaki, and Tully engage in a corrupt and biased investigation by not investigating inside the house and interviewing house defendants as friends rather than suspects. Proctor, Buchanan, Tully, and the MSP never searched for DNA evidence inside the house, never looked for rigid surfaces that could have caused the gash on the back of Mr. O'Keefe's head, never inspected the house defendants' bodies for indication of bruises or cuts that resulted from an altercation, never did a search of the house defendants' cell phones with the exception of Jen McCabe. This allowed potential evidence to be destroyed, disposed of, removed, or simply become unrecoverable. Proctor's, Bukaki, and Tully's interviews of the house defendants were also outside of the normal protocol. They were all interviewed either at their home, their family member's home, their lawyer's home. In the case of Brian Higgins, their lawyer's office. In the case of Brian Jr. and Caitlin Albert, their place of employment, or over the phone. These interviews were each untimely, unrecorded, and fundamentally designed to protect the house defendants. And the house defendants took full advantage of it. Specifically, Jen McCabe became the point person for the house defendants in providing their false narrative to investigators and continued to serve that role for years. She managed the communicated details about the house defendants' messaging and the investigation itself, including visiting Proctor's and other investigators' private residences, mapping out timelines to coordinate statements with other witnesses, leading group text messages, claims that they were later partially deleted, and planning private meetings at all hours of the day and night. Indeed, these were never the acts of innocent witnesses seeking to help an investigation concerning the death of an alleged friend. No, rather, they were predicate acts of a conspiracy among a group of assholes with a shared goal of deflecting their criminal exposure onto someone else. McCabe was wildly active on her phone in the immediate aftermath of the house altercation that killed John O'Keefe. Her cellular data reveals that she arrived back at the home at 12 Country Lane at 2:12:38 a.m. on January 29th. Her phone was unlocked between 2:23:41 a.m. and 2:31:07 a.m. Text messages were sent between 2:25:11 and 2:25:26. Two screenshots were deleted 2:26:37. Her Apple Health recorded steps throughout the night after she arrived home at 2:14:03, 2:15:33, 2:16:34, 2:17:38, 2:18:32, 2:19:23, 2:21:10, 2:22:22, 2:23:20, 2:23:44, 2:33:07, and 2:31:44 a.m., 2:33:07, 3:51:37, and 3:51:45 a.m. 18 calls were deleted between 5:33:47 a.m. and 8:15 a.m. Because that's not shady at all. And an outgoing call to Nicole Albert at 5:07:21 a.m. The last cellular artifact is particularly revealing because McCabe's call to her sister occurred 1 hour before John O'Keefe's body was discovered, mere moments after a 43-second call at 5:05:14 a.m., during which Reed and McCabe agreed to go searching for John O'Keefe. Ring video from the One Meadows shows Reed leaving the property at exactly 5:07 a.m. McCabe's coordination continued on February 1st, 2022, when she worked with another witness, Carrie Roberts, to draft a timeline in order to align their stories regarding what had occurred on January 29th. They did this in preparation for Roberts' interview with MSP, which occurred at the McCabe's residence, despite MSP's protocol to separate witnesses when interviewed. Interesting. While MSP interviewed Roberts, McCabe simultaneously texted her husband, Matthew McCabe, Nicole Albert, and Brian Albert, saying she's telling them everything, all the stuff. Nicole Albert responded, "Good, and call us after." like, how does that not totally imply that they devised a story and she's telling them the story and they're like, everything is going to plan? I mean, there's Brian Albert going, just as I planned. They're falling right into my trap. We're going to get that Karen Reed. Excellent. Excellent. I mean, that shit's creepy as fuck. Like, these fucking supervillains fucking watch too many goddamn movies, bro. The McAlberts watch too many movies. She's telling them everything. Master, she's telling them everything. Just as I predicted. Good. We will move on according to plan. Like, could you be any fucking more cliche fucking creepy, you fucks? What is wrong with you? This is so ridiculous. The master. The master. Remember Tom Waits in Dracula? That shit was awesome. He was good as fucking that. 2 months later, after being prodded and influenced by McCabe and the other House defendants, Roberts changed part of her story to better fit with Jen McCabe's own false statements. Specifically, Roberts testified falsely in a state grand jury proceeding on April 26, 2022, that she heard Ms. Reed ask McCabe to Google hyperthermia. She had not made this claim in any of the at least 3 interviews she gave to MSP investigators in the days after Mr. O'Keefe's death, in part because it never happened. Carrie's new and false story to the state grand jury aligned exactly with McCabe's testimony that Ms. Reed asked her to Google hyperthermia. Roberts even adopted McCabe's false claim that Ms. Reed had supposedly asked the question while praying in a CPD cruiser outside of 34 Fairview Road. Later, Roberts conceded that she never heard Ms. Reed ask McCabe to Google anything. She admitted this a year later in a separate proceeding on April 19th, 2023, conducted by different law enforcement authority, not Proctor and MSP, and again during Reed's criminal retrial in 2025. That totally happened. The House defendants deleted many of their texts among themselves and others in the aftermath of Mr. O'Keefe's death. The text captured before deletion or recovered later also revealed some of the House defendants' planning. For instance, on the evening of January 29th, Ms. McCabe texted with her sister, Nicole Albert, that Carrie Roberts was present when Mr. O'Keefe's body was found, talked to the cops, and kept it simple, quote unquote. Of course, there would be no reason to report back to other House defendants about Roberts keeping it simple, quote unquote, unless what really happened was more complicated. Proctor, Bukaki, and the MSP never sought these communications. Rather, they were obtained by Ms. Reed's defense attorney's repeated motions to compel access to data on Jen McCabe's iPhone. Later, in other group texts with Jen McCabe and Brian and Nicole Albert, Matthew McCabe suggested having Chris Albert publicize their crafted story to a reporter, saying, ask Chris to ask some questions. Tell them the guy never went in the house, as an endorsement of the plan. Brian Albert responded, exactly. Sitting back again, dude. We tell them that he never went to the house. Well, of course. Good thinking, old chap. Exactly. Like, I just picture a bunch of Weasley ass fucking limeys 200 years ago sitting there fucking. That's what I picture. Like a bunch of Weasley ass fucking top hat wearing, fucking cape wearing, fucking handlebar mustache curled up, fucking using fucking Kev's earwax to fucking twist. Like, that's what I picture. You know? Well, old chap, it's very simple. We get him to tell the press that he never went into the house. Exactly. Fuck is wrong with you people? Like, I hope that they get the fucking like everything fucking thrown at them, dude. Like everything legal wise, I want it all thrown at them, bro. All of it. Like every fucking legal book there is just fucking piled onto them, dude. Can't stand these people. Importantly, the text messages from the House defendants' phones were ultimately recovered, and that provide a window into their conspiracy and misconduct, as well as their MSP's unlawful investigation, were not the product of CPD or MSP's investigative work. Rather, based on a media reports raising serious questions about MSP's investigation and the House defendant's role in Mr. O'Keefe's death, another separate law enforcement agency began its own subsequent investigation. That investigation, and not MSP's, resulted in obtaining some of the House defendants' phones, taking statements from the House defendants, and conducting a separate proceeding, all of which MSP refused to do itself. That separate entity would be the FBI. Indeed, the evidence procured by the separate law enforcement agency's investigation demonstrates the House defendants' conspiracy and unlawful conduct, as well as MSP's bias and corruption. Proctor and Buchanan initially interviewed the McCabe's and Brian Albert on January 29th at the McCabe's home at 12 Country Lane in Canton, at which time they again falsely stated that Mr. O'Keefe's never entered the Albert's house. However, Jennifer McCabe's cell phone location data shows that she was at 34 Fairview all morning, leaving at 11:15 a.m., just in time to meet Proctor at 12 Country Lane at 11:30 a.m. According to Proctor, he was at CPD, just a mile from 34 Fairview, before proceeding to the McCabe's home for the scheduled interview. At that point, Proctor had still not inspected 34 Fairview and had interviewed either the McCabe's or the Alberts. He could have done both simply by driving a mile to 34 Fairview, where both the McCabe's and the Alberts were minutes earlier, rather than drive across town minutes later in a snowstorm. He did this intentionally to avoid 34 Fairview, where he would have been required. He would have been required to inspect the house and property and make reportable observations. He also wanted to make the McCabe's and Alberts more comfortable for their interviews. Bukkake and Proctor did not interview Nicole Albert and Brian Higgins until February 3rd, 2022, did not interview Chris and Julie Albert until February 10th, nearly 2 weeks after Mr. O'Keefe's death, more than a week after Ms. Reed was arrested and charged, and did not interview Caitlin Albert and Brian Albert Jr. until September 15th, 2023, nearly 2 years later. Before both interviews, the McCabe's and McAlberts continued to coordinate their stories as evidenced in group text. Proctor, Buchanan, and Tully failed to conduct a meaningful investigation into Higgins' involvement. When Proctor and Bukkake interviewed Higgins on February 3rd at Higgins' attorney's home in Sharon, Massachusetts, Higgins presented the troopers with a select set of self-curated texts between himself and Ms. Reed. They learned that Higgins and Ms. Reed had been exchanging flirtatious texts, and that Higgins reported at least one instance in which Miss Reed and Higgins had kissed while at Mr. O'Keefe's house mere weeks before his death. Rather than pursuing Higgins as a possible suspect, Proctor, Buchanan, and Tully refused to investigate the matter further. They never interviewed Higgins again, even after surveillance video revealed Higgins was suspiciously hiding his face in the halls and the parking lot of CPD at 1:30 a.m. on January 29th. The video contradicts Higgins' statements about his actions that night. However, not only did Proctor, Bukkake, Tully, and MSP not investigate what Higgins was doing or what was in the bag he was carrying in the video, but they went so far as to hide this video from Ms. Reed and criminal defense attorneys for years. Ms. Reed's defense did not receive these videos until after she stood trial for the first time. And even after the separate law enforcement agency, aka the FBI's investigation, revealed late night phone calls between Brian Albert and Brian Higgins, MSP failed to pursue either witness further or seek a full forensic extraction of Higgins' phones or even a simple call log from his cellular provider. This concerted inaction by MSP, Proctor, Bukkake, and Tully directly benefited the House defendants, especially Higgins and Brian Albert, who proceeded to dispose of and destroy their phones just as the criminal court ordered them preserved in response to a motion by Reed's criminal defense team. Fascinating. Yeah, because that's normal too. That's what innocent, normal moms and dads do. Specifically on September 15th, 2022, Ms. Reed's defense attorney filed a motion requesting that the court order Brian Albert and Higgins to preserve the contents of their phones. A Superior Court judge held a hearing on the motion on September 22nd and announced in open court that the defendants were required to preserve their phones, signing a preservation letter to that effect on September 23rd. Higgins was served with a copy of the court's order on September 30th. He later testified that he changed phones and mobile carriers on September 29th. Later, in October 2022, this is my favorite, Higgins then destroyed his old phone, which was subject to the court's preservation order. In fact, Higgins went so far as to drive to a military base on Cape Cod, remove the SIM card from the phone, cut the SIM card with scissors he brought with him, and destroy and dispose of the phone and card in 2 separate dumpsters before driving back home. Bro, I mean, what the fuck is you doing? Brian Albert received a copy of the preservation letter sometime between September 23rd and 24th. He originally testified that he threw away his phone in the 3rd week of September 2022, but then later claimed that he did so on September 22nd, 1 day before being notified of the court's order, and the same day, Ms. Reed's defense attorneys argued in open court that the phone should be preserved. Okay. Higgins and Albert's destruction of their phones eliminated potentially incriminating communications between them and was a direct result of Proctor's, Buchanan's, and Tully's intentional refusal to collect important investigative evidence that would be exculpatory to Miss Reed. Even after learning about the destruction of both witnesses' cell phones, MSP investigators had other avenues that could have used to pursue evidence, such as cellular toll records or simply interviewing Higgins and Albert to inquire about the nature of the late-night communications. They intentionally ignored these avenues as well. They absolutely did. This is fucking wild, bro. This is amazing. I mean, this was all laid out in court. Like, none of this is news to us. Make no mistake. None of this is news to us. This is just laid out, fact by fact by fact, provable facts, by the way, fact by fact by fact, as to why Karen Reed is suing the fuck out of these people, as she should. Oh, Britt Happens became a member while I was reading. Welcome, Britt Happens. It's good to see you. I mean, it is kind of fun going down memory lane, though. Like, because this is absolutely like a refresher. Yeah, I'm even doubting the validity in that. The whole you wrong thing, like, I don't think that was Higgy. I think he just wrote that out. Yeah, this is totally the synopsis to the film. This is exactly what this is. The synopsis to the film. This is the treatment of the film. This is the treatment. Not only did Proctor fail to probe his friends' stories, he coordinated with them through his sister. Proctor spoke to Courtney multiple times a day and knew she was close. She was in close contact with him. She knew she was in, Courtney's multiple times a day and knew she was in close contact with and providing information to Julie Albert. Julie and Courtney called each other many times between February 1st and 2nd, and at least 67 times between February 1st and September 6th, 2022. So this is Julie Albert and Courtney Proctor. So Julie Albert being, as I understand it, Brian Albert's wife, right? No, that's Nicole. Nicole is Brian Albert's wife. Julie is Nicole's sister. And Julie Albert is talking to the lead investigator's wife 67 times over a span of less than a month. Fascinating. Colin's mom married to Chris. Right, that's right. Sorry about that. Yes, in-law. Colin's mom married to Chris. Chris Albert's wife. Totally forgot about. How could I forget about Chris Albert? Like, biggest douchebag of them all. So yeah, like 67 times. So Brian Albert's brother's wife is the owner of 34 Fairview Road's brother's wife is in communication 67 times, calling back and forth with the wife of the lead investigator in the case, which is clearly a conflict of interest. For example, as he prepared to question Chris and Julie Albert on February 10th, Proctor told his sister Courtney that the interview was not a big deal, quote unquote. Courtney told Proctor that Julie Albert had been nervous and wanted to give him a thank you gift after the interview. To avoid scrutiny, Proctor instructed Courtney to tell Julie to give the gift to his wife, Elizabeth Proctor. Proctor shared investigatory details with Courtney before they were public. In the same instance referenced above, when his sister informed him that Julie Albert had been so nervous before the interview, instead of investigating further, he shrugged it off, laughed, and asked why. But Proctor knew exactly why Julie Albert was nervous. He sought to reassure her by telling Courtney that it was fine, just a quick combo. And then, after the interview, Proctor spoke to Julie on his personal cell phone in an unreported conversation. Proctor never treated the Alberts as witnesses in a murder investigation. He protected them and treated them like family friends that they were. At one point, leading up to the name of the interviews, Jennifer McCabe asked Nicole Albert if she had heard anything more about the investigation. Confident she would learn more from Julie Albert again through Courtney, Nicole Albert responded, "We'll get more info tomorrow. Don't want to text about it." House defendants did not want to text about their activities and communications because they tried to hide and or lie about them. For instance, it was discovered in the second criminal trial that Jennifer McCabe had lied in her sworn testimony in the first trial about not visiting 34 Fairview with Carrie Roberts on January 30th on their way to Sergeant Lank's house. However, while they did not text about this meeting, McCabe's cell phone location data obtained later by Miss Reed's defense reveals that she did, in fact, visit 34 Fairview just one day after O'Keefe's death and lied about it. Again, this cellular evidence and the deception by McCabe was never investigated further by BMSP, despite the fact that they had McCabe's full phone extraction since February 2022. Fascinating. The McCabe's, Alberts, and Higgins all told similar false stories to investigators in their interviews, and Proctor, Bukaki, and Tully accepted their coordinated statements without making efforts to corroborate their stories. Wow. For example, Higgins testified before the state grand jury on April 28th, 2022, that he parked his Jeep Wrangler in front of 34 Fairview Road for the duration of his stay on January 29th, 2022. However, none of the other House defendants or the precipient witnesses who parked briefly out front around 12:30 a.m., Ryan Nagel, Heather Maxson, and Ricky D. Anturano, ever testified about seeing any other vehicle parked there other than Miss Reed's Lexus. Matthew McCabe claims to have seen V-shaped tire tracks in the snow. Another observation not corroborated by any other witnesses. Further, Brian and Nicole Albert initially told Sergeant Lank of CPD that their daughter, Caitlin Albert, left the house that night around 12:15 a.m. when she was picked up by her boyfriend. However, when Caitlin Albert and Brian Albert Jr. were interviewed in August of 2023, they both testified that Caitlin was the last person to leave 34 Fairview that night at approximately 1:45 a.m. Brian and Nicole Albert clearly made efforts to exclude placing their eldest daughter in the house when Mr. O'Keefe was there. Neither Proctor, Bukaki, Tully, Lank, MSP, or CPD ever further investigated this 90-minute discrepancy regarding the presence of a key witness to an alleged murder. I feel like, dude, I swear, I feel like Brian Higgins is the one that they're all covering up for, and he's the weakest link of them all. I think he's the dumbest of them all. I think they all see him that way too. I suspect that all the McAlberts, including fucking Matt McCabe, can you imagine Matt McCabe sitting there going, what a fucking retard? You know what I mean? Like, can you imagine that shit? Like, I guarantee you that Higgins is considered the fucking oafist. Like, he's a big oaf. He's oafish as fuck. And he's the most oafish of everybody. And he's the one, like, think about that shit. This guy fucking admitted in fucking open court that he fucking cut up his fucking SIM card at a military base with scissors that he brought with him. And here he is, tells a story about how his fucking vehicle, his Jeep Wrangler with a plow in front of it, because you're going to miss that, right? He lies and says that his fucking Jeep Wrangler is in front of the house the whole time. Or they all say, no, the Jeep Wrangler wasn't there. Because it's not indicative to Karen Reed being able to hit John O'Keefe with her car, is it? Because now Ryan Nagel is saying that his Jeep wasn't there. So I don't think it was. But the fact is that, like, even if Brian Higgins is supposedly trying to fucking help with this goddamn story, dude, his Jeep being there fucks everything up, because there's no fucking way that Karen Reed would have been able to pick up enough speed to fucking hit John O'Keefe and clip him with the side with her fucking taillight. So he goes fucking spinning and flying in the opposite direction and lands in the lawn without Karen Reed slamming right into the fucking front of Brian Higgs' fucking plow on his Jeep. There's no fucking way that would happen. Like, there's just no way that would happen. So, I mean, to me, Higgy's the weakest link. Higgy's going to be the one to break. The problem is there's no physical evidence except for circumstantial physical evidence, like the footage at Canton PD and Kelly Deaver's statement to the FBI and, you know, stuff like that. The fact that he fucking cut up his phone, you know, the behavior at 34 Fair or at the Waterfall Bar and Grill. I mean, you know, this is all circumstantial. There's nothing to physically tie him to the murder of Boston police officer John O'Keefe, except all of this circumstantial shit, which is I can't imagine anyone taking that to, unless they have something that we don't know about, but I don't think they do. I've kind of lost faith in that at this point. I'm hoping that these depositions reveal something at some point. Instead of taking the routine, objective, and necessary steps of investigating the McCabe's, Higgins, and Alberts, the McAlberts, Proctor, Bukkake, and Tully focused exclusively on Miss Reed as a suspect from the start of the investigation. I almost said state of the art. Start of the investigation, despite substantial evidence exonerating her and implicating others, just as the House defendants intended. Proctor seized. Oh, wait a second. Lieutenant Detective Tully Tubby. Lieutenant Detective Tully Tubby became a YouTube member. Welcome to Logic. Appreciate it. What's up, Mazza? Good to see you, buddy. And just real quick, Sunday, 4 p.m., Mazza's holding a fundraiser for Kelsey Fitzsimmons, another one. And I will be joining him and along with other guests, I'm sure. And I'm excited about it. I hope to see you guys there, and I hope to raise a lot of money for Kelsey because Kelsey has got a big fight ahead of her to be able to see her baby, and she needs to be able to out-lawyer the fuck out of Justin for this. So, and Mazza said it's going to be a great one, and I believe it. Let's go. I'm excited. Proctor seized Ms. Reed's cell phone and her SUV within 30 minutes of interviewing her on January 29th. He arrested her 72 hours later before reviewing any surveillance from the bars or ring camera footage, before interviewing exculpatory witnesses, and before the medical examiner's official conclusion that the manner of death could not be determined and that there were no injuries to Mr. O'Keefe's body consistent with a vehicle strike. Much to Proctor's surprise, through the separate law enforcement agencies, FBI's investigation, his contemporaneous text messages were discovered. Among them, Proctor texted with his high school friends on the evening of January 29th, the day he began his investigation. He told them that the MSP had already determined the Alberts were not going to receive any scrutiny about Mr. O'Keefe's death, even though the MSP had not at that point visited the crime scene or been inside Albert's home and had performed only a cursory interview of the McCabe's and Brian Albert of the McAlberts. Proctor told his friends that Mr. O'Keefe had been hit by a car and had not been in a fight, despite the fact that Mr. O'Keefe had suffered no injuries consistent with a vehicle strike. But he did have injuries consistent with a fight and a dog attack. Proctor rejected a friend's belief that Brian Albert, the homeowner of the property where Mr. O'Keefe's body was found, would receive some shit. Instead, agreeing with another friend's assumption that you guys, the MSP, are out to make it cut and dry since it involves cops. Proctor revealed that he had already decided he was going to put serious charges on Miss Reed and that she was fucked and that there was zero chance she skates. From the outset, Proctor was determined to pin it on the girl. Proctor's supervisors were aware of his bias and conflicted relationships in this investigation. They didn't have to guess. Proctor told them. He told them that he knew the Alberts. Text messages from Proctor and Bukkake and other MSP troopers show Proctor had decided to focus suspicion on Miss Reed to the exclusion of everyone else. He told the troopers that Miss Reed was retarded and that he was searching her phone for nudes of her. In the text chain, Sergeant Bukkake liked Proctor's text describing Miss Reed as retarded. Bukkake received Proctor's text and never reprimanded Proctor or addressed his improper bias and conduct. Because he was determined to put serious charges on Miss Reed, Proctor ignored the fact that the Commonwealth's medical examiner could not conclude that Mr. O'Keefe's death was a homicide, determining instead that the manner of death could not be determined. Excuse me. The medical examiner also refused to conclude that Mr. O'Keefe died as a result of being struck by a vehicle, and later testified at trial that his injuries were not consistent with a car strike. Proctor later admitted that in his entire career he had never seen a homicide investigation where the medical examiner could not determine the manner of death, but he remained undeterred in his quest to charge Miss Reed. As he later admitted, the medical examiner's refusal to rule the death a homicide did not matter to him because either way, Miss Reed was going to be charged. Proctor made this investigation cut and dry by manufacturing a case against Miss Reed. A crucial first step was to ensure that the crime scene and evidence was not secured. This was in violation of MSP policy and well-established best practices for critical incident investigations. Specifically, the MSP Crime Laboratory requires proper processing of evidence at major crime scenes, including crime scene photography and evidence processing and recovery of latent fingerprint, footwear, and tire track evidence. Neither the MSP troopers involved in the investigation or the CPD police officers on the scene secured the Albert's home or the area where Mr. O'Keefe's body was found. The MSP did not take any photographs of the house, including any part of the yard where Mr. O'Keefe's body was found, until February 1st, more than 3 full days later. No photographs were ever even taken of the inside garage of 34 Fairview. This intentional departure from established protocols permitted Proctor and Bukkake to generate false incriminating evidence against Miss Reed and give the House defendants time to destroy actual evidence. By approximately 2:30 p.m. on January 29th, before he had even met or interviewed Miss Reed or seen her Lexus SUV, Proctor had already ordered seizure of the vehicle at her parents' home in Dighton. By 4:17 p.m., the vehicle was in MSP's physical possession. The vehicle was then towed to the CPD tally port, even though the MSP has at least 2 closer barracks, including Middleborough, the MSP headquarters for accident reconstruction, and where the vehicle would ultimately reside for analysis. And Massachusetts was in the middle of an historic nor'easter, whatever that means. Proctor knew he had more leeway to manipulate evidence regarding the SUV at CPD than the MSP's facilities, and he knew he needed to have that evidence in close proximity to the crime scene at 34 Fairview Road so that he could plant fucking evidence. Before the vehicle arrived to the garage, Miss Reed's Lexus taillight had a minor crack but was intact. An observation ultimately testified by Dighton officer Nicholas Barrows. We love Nicholas Barrows. Let's give it up one time for Nick Barrows because we love him. Nicholas Barrows, who was never interviewed by Proctor or any member of the MSP. The crack occurred when Miss Reed backed into Mr. O'Keefe's car at 5 a.m. the morning as she was leaving to search for him. The incident was captured on video, but nearly 2 years, however, Proctor memorialized the event as Miss Reed's Lexus coming close but not hitting Mr. O'Keefe's Chevy Traverse. Proctor ultimately changed that narrative to admit the vehicles did come in contact with each other. Wow. Bukkake and Proctor followed the vehicle from Dighton and arrived at CPD at 5:35 p.m. Just moments after the tow truck with the Lexus. At some point after the vehicle arrived at the Sally Port, the right rear taillight was almost entirely destroyed. Video taken from different angles in the Sally Port shows Buchanan, Proctor, Canton Police Chief Kenny Berkowitz, and other individuals near the taillight, but notably no video captures taillight's appearance at the precise time it arrived at the Sally Port. Nor'easter is a snowstorm. Okay, that's what I figured it was. I just wasn't sure. And other individuals near the taillight, but notably no video captures the taillight's appearance at the precise time it arrived at the Sally Port. The available surveillance video from the Sally Port, as well as CPD access card swipe log obtained by a separate law enforcement agency, reveal seemingly unfettered access to the Sally Port by a myriad of individuals, including Brian Higgins, throughout the evening of January 29th, including just before and just after 5:30 p.m. One or more of them destroyed the taillight secretly took pieces of it into their possession and then planted some of them in various places at 34 Fairview and on Mr. O'Keefe's clothes. Knowing that there were video cameras both inside and outside the Sallyport, Proctor and Bukkake worked together to obscure the role in manipulating the right rear taillight and then ultimately to present false evidence at the first criminal trial. Specifically, Proctor directed Bukkake to secure video footage from the surveillance cameras located both inside and outside the Sallyport garage, which he did. These videos were manipulated in two significant ways. First, a critical 42-minute portion was deleted from the footage from the Sallyport front wall camera, the portion from 5:08:02 p.m. to 5:50 p.m., which included the exact time Miss Reed's Lexus arrived in the garage and the period Proctor was at the passenger side taillight. This footage would have shown that the taillight was intact. Second, footage from the Sallyport back wall camera was inverted, which made the right side of the Miss Reed's vehicle appear that the left side, and vice versa. Another camera, main driveway side exterior, captured the back end of the Lexus. It arrived at CPD, but was too grainy to decipher the condition of the passenger taillight. The videos from inside and outside the Sallyport and Proctor's request for Bukkake to obtain it was intentionally hidden from Karen Reed and her defense attorneys for more than 2 years to avoid scrutiny. The video was then sprung on them immediately before and during the first criminal trial. One driveway camera's footage was not revealed to the defense until just prior to the start of the second trial. In fact, Bukkake presented one part of the video during his direct testimony under questioning by the assistant district attorney, Adam Lally. Bukkake narrated the video to the jury, correctly identified that Proctor was at the rear of the vehicle, but claimed that he never approached the rear right taillight area of the vehicle. That testimony, however, was entirely false. As he well knew, the video that Bukkake authenticated as fair and accurate was actually neither fair nor accurate because it had been inverted. Proctor was actually behind the right taillight for a significant period. And because it was inverted, it appeared in the video that he was behind the left taillight. They hoped this would allow Bukkake to lie about this issue at trial without detection. With the video with this video and Bukkake's false testimony, the MSP, Proctor, and Bukkake attempted to mislead the jury in order to conceal the tampering with and planting of taillight material. Proctor and Bukkake took taillight pieces from the Sallyport, brought them back to 34 Fairview to plant them in the location where Mr. O'Keefe's body was found, and then falsified various documents in an attempt to hide their conduct. In warrant applications to the Stoughton District Court and Norfolk Superior Court for searches of Google's electronic records, ring videos, Miss Reed's phone, Miss Reed's vehicle, cell tower records, and other sources of information, Proctor swore he seized Miss Reed's vehicle from her parents' home at 5:35 p.m. on January 29, 2022, and had the vehicle towed to the CPD. Reports shared by the Dighton Police Department in 2023 revealed that the Lexus was towed from Dighton at 4:17 p.m. Proctor's assertion that he seized it at 5:30 p.m. was intentionally false to hide the fact that the car was in police custody for 73 minutes longer than indicated in his sworn affidavits. Enough time, one would think, would be to smash a taillight and plant pieces of it at 34 Fairview. Proctor maintained that false narrative because it would hide the exact time frame when he had the opportunity to remove pieces of taillight from Miss Reed's vehicle and bring them back to the house, that he could later claim the pieces had been there since approximately 12:30 a.m. on January 29th. However, unbeknownst to him, driveway videos from the Reed residence in Dighton and a report written by the Dighton Police report revealed Proctor's lie and revealed the true and accurate time the Lexus SUV came into MSP's possession. Proctor also deposited the SUV taillight pieces that he and the others removed from the vehicle at the Sallyport on Mr. O'Keefe's clothes. Proctor retrieved Mr. O'Keefe's clothes from the floor of the hospital where he was pronounced deceased. Instead of securing the clothes in a sealed container or bag, as protocol requires, Proctor and Buchanan drove them around in his car all day and then placed them in Norfolk County District Attorney's office for at least 6 days, where they were accessible to Proctor, Bukkake, and other MSP troopers. Actually, isn't that wrong? Don't I remember them saying that they were like in his car for like a week or something like that? Weren't they in the trunk of his car for like some crazy period of time? Or am I mistaken about that? I mean, I feel like they're missing that part, but I could be wrong. Proctor and Buchanan also failed to create a log to document the chain of custody of the clothing. Okay, so what I'm thinking is, 6 weeks between the loggings. It was 3 weeks. That's what I thought it was. It was 3 weeks. 3 weeks between the loggings, right? Oh, you guys are all over the place in the chat. I remember going over it. I remember being like, what the fuck? Yeah, this is the Karen Reed response to the McAlbert's motion to dismiss. In case anybody doesn't know what I'm reading here. This is the Karen Reed. So Karen Reed is suing the McAlberts and members of the MSP. And I think the city of Canton, the town of Canton. She is, so the McAlberts and all of them have filed a motion to dismiss the lawsuit. But this is Karen Reed's response to that. There was no chain of custody until 6 weeks after the 29th. Thank you so much, Richie. Appreciate that. Proctor and Bukkake also failed to create a log to document the chain of custody of the clothing. Therefore, and by design, there is no record of when, how many times, and under what circumstances Proctor and Bukkake touched, manipulated, handled, or otherwise tampered with the clothing. Exactly. The MSP evidence submission handbook dictates that the chain of custody begins at the time of the collection, and the collectors seal evidence packages as soon as possible after collection to ensure integrity of evidence items and limit loss of transient evidence. Here, in violation of MSP's stated policies, the chain of custody for all of John O'Keefe's clothing, as well as dozens of pieces of taillight material, does not begin until March 14th, 2022, nearly 2 months after it was collected. When Proctor finally submitted it to the MSP crime lab, at some point, nearly 2 months after it was collected, when Proctor finally submitted it to the MSP crime lab, at some point before providing those clothes to the crime lab, Proctor and or Bukkake placed pieces of the SUV taillight on them, where they were then identified by the crime lab in 2023. Proctor also planted pieces of glass on the bumper of Miss Reed's SUV while it was in his possession at the CPD Sallyport garage, which he then claimed to have recovered later on February 1st. Proctor planted this evidence to make it look like these shards originated from a cocktail glass that Mr. O'Keefe was holding when he exited the Waterfall bar. Evidently, Proctor did not plan on Karen Reed's defense attorneys insisting on forensic testing on the glass shards, which showed that they did not match the cocktail glass in Mr. O'Keefe's possession. In fact, the 5 glass pieces originated from multiple different sources. One shard of glass on the bumper did not match, shard of glass on the bumper did match another piece of glass that had been in Proctor's possession during the investigation. The only way for the glass to have ended up on the SUV bumper is that Proctor planted it there in an attempt to connect the vehicle to the death of Mr. O'Keefe. Wow. Proctor, Bukaki, and MSP's investigation was rife with other examples of corruption and bias. For example, despite evidence that Brian Albert may have had video surveillance at the house, neither Proctor nor Bukaki nor any other member of the MSP issued subpoenas to Ring or other home surveillance company, and no one questioned any other member of the Albert family about the presence of the video monitoring. Proctor and MSP also failed to track down the important witnesses and evidence. For example, Brian Loughran, Lucky, a town of Canton snowplow operator, turned out to be one of the most significant witnesses in the entire criminal trial. Proctor and his colleagues never spoke to him during the investigation and only did so once Loughran was interviewed by a separate law enforcement agency and provided statements inconsistent with MSP's narrative 18 months after Miss Reed was already indicted and awaiting trial. Specifically, Mr. Loughran drove his snowplow by the house multiple times in the early morning hours of January 29th, including at 2:30 a.m. and 3:30 a.m. He reported that there was no body on the lawn at 34 Fairview, no cars on the street in front of the house at 2:30 a.m. Mr. Loughran believes he would have seen a body had it been on the lawn where Mr. O'Keefe was found several hours later. Instead, the second time he drove by the house around 3:30 a.m., Mr. Loughran saw a Ford Edge in front of the Alberts' home that had not been there an hour before, despite a town-wide ban on the street parking during the storm, but which was then parked where Mr. O'Keefe's body was later found. Brian Albert drove a Ford Edge at that time. Now, again, let's try to picture the setting for a second, right? Try and picture the setting. So, Lucky drives by. There's a snowstorm, okay? A snowstorm is happening right now. And Lucky drives by at 2:30 a.m. and again at 3:30 a.m. And he does not see John O'Keefe lying in that lawn. However, Karen Reed and Jen McCabe and Carrie Roberts pull up to 34 Fairview, and it is still dark. Remember, yeah, it's early in the morning. It's just before 6 a.m. But it's still dark. But Karen sees John laying out there immediately. Imagine that. Karen sees him lying out there immediately. Now, if somebody's trying to say, well, he was covered in snow when Lucky saw him, how could he be covered in snow but not be covered in snow enough to cover him to where Karen can't see him either in the dark in front of 34 Fairview? If she hit him, I mean, all of this is moot because Karen was acquitted. We know Karen Reed did not hit John O'Keefe with her vehicle. All of this is moot. But it's going to matter because she plans on suing the fuck out of the people responsible for covering this shit up and covering for the people who actually killed her boyfriend at the time. However, the Ford Edge was gone by the time Miss Reed arrived to the house around 6 a.m., and in its place, she discovered Mr. O'Keefe's body. Proctor, Bukaki, and Tully never made any effort during the actual investigation to track down Lucky or any information relating to the Ford Edge. Proctor also secretly made efforts to protect other Albert family members during the investigation who may also have had a role in Mr. O'Keefe's death. Thank you, Trisha, for becoming a member. Welcome to Logic. Appreciate it. Witness Julie Nagel told Proctor that Colin Albert, Brian Albert's nephew, had been present at the house the night of January 28th and 29th, but Proctor omitted his name from his official summary of Miss Nagel's interview, even though he listed all others who had been present at the house with Colin. When Miss Reed's attorneys filed a motion to obtain Proctor's notes, His handwritten memorialization of the Julie Nagel interview mirrored almost exactly what was typed up in his police report, except for the words Colin Albert. Fascinating. Proctor's interactions with Kevin Albert, Brian Albert's brother, during the investigation also demonstrate his close relationships with the Albert family, as well as his propensity for violating MSP rules and Massachusetts criminal laws. Repeatedly, Proctor used his personal cell phone to speak with Kevin, a CPD officer, instead of official channels when he coordinated interviews of witnesses, even though CPD was recused from the investigation. On January 30th, 2022, Kevin Albert texted Proctor on Proctor's personal cell to coordinate Proctor's use of CPD facilities to interview witnesses and about what witnesses Proctor planned to interview and when. Tellingly, despite the fact that he was investigating the murder of a law enforcement officer and that MSP rules and regulations require recorded witnesses and suspect interviews when possible, Proctor never used the recorded interview room at CPD and instead chose to keep the interviews offline. Why? The resources were available. Further, in the middle of Proctor's investigation in the summer of 2022, it was discovered that Proctor and Kevin Albert were out together drinking alcohol and driving in Proctor's cruiser on Cape Cod. At the end of the night, Kevin Albert forgot to bring home his gun and badge and left them in Proctor's cruiser. Their drinking and driving in Proctor's MSP vehicle violated both MSP policies as well as various Massachusetts criminal statutes and further highlights the conflicted nature of MSP's investigation. Moreover, because of their close relationship, Proctor, Bukaki, and Tully worked together with CPD in hiding certain videos from Karen Reed's criminal defense team. Specifically, upon information and belief, MSP and CPD collaborated to keep exculpatory surveillance video from Karen Reed's criminal defense team in preparation for the first trial. Those videos captured Higgins' activities in the CPD parking lot and inside the police station shortly after the physical altercation at the house that led to Mr. O'Keefe's death and murder. These videos demonstrated that Higgins' statements about his post-house party activities on the night of Mr. O'Keefe's death were not accurate. Upon information and belief, CPD knew it had this evidence and worked with MSP to keep it from Miss Reed. Additionally, upon information and belief, CPD sets its auto-delete function for saving certain surveillance videos from the Sally Port to 30 days, therefore assuring the immediate destruction of likely additional exculpatory evidence. The 30-day auto-delete setting conflicts with the fact that CPD videos were shared with the defense over the course of 3 years. Therefore, either the setting was changed to prevent a defense expert from auditing the footage, which is when the 30-day setting was discovered, or the footage was obtained within 30 days of the January 29th and withheld from the defense, which is the latter. Of course it was the latter, but I think they're lying about the 30-day setting too. The indictments, trials, and aftermath. Ms. Reed was arrested on February 1st, 2022, pursuant to a criminal complaint charging her with manslaughter, among other charges. She was required to post $50,000 for bail, and the court imposed several other conditions of release, including loss of her driver's license and stay-away orders from the O'Keefe's family and John O'Keefe's third home. Ms. Reed was later rearrested on June 9th, 2022, after being indicted for second-degree murder, manslaughter, and leaving the scene of an accident resulting in death. Her bail was set to $100,000 by the Norfolk County Superior Court. In February of 2023, her bail was reduced to $80,000 by the defense's request. And Ms. Reed was tried twice by the Commonwealth. The first trial started in April 2024 and ended on July 1st after the court ordered a mistrial because of a hung jury. On June 18th, 2025, following another nearly 2-month trial, Ms. Reed was acquitted of all charges associated with the death of John O'Keefe, murder, manslaughter, and leaving the scene of an accident resulting in death. For the first time in 3.5 years, Karen Reed was able to leave court knowing that the forces aligned against her had failed to convince a jury to buy their bullshit. Wait a second, folks. Wait a second.
I think we got a super dad. Super dad. I think we got a super dad. Super dad. Super dad. Super dad. think we got a super chat. I think we got a super chat.
Okay, let me read this. Burn Bright Karen, thank you so much. The clothing was laid out on floor on butcher paper to dry and prevent mold from affecting DNA evidence in the DA's office for several days. Items turned into lab March 16th with no chain of custody log. Yes, I remember. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. But I thought that they was kept in. I thought they were kept in the trunk of a car for a period of time. I thought I remember hearing 3 weeks. Savalar 81, member for 6 months. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Beginning in January 2022, the defendant's actions have had profound effect on Miss Reed. She lost her employment and income. She lost her professorship. She lost her private health insurance. She lost her car and her driver's license. She lost her house. Her reputation, both personally and professionally, was utterly destroyed. She incurred multiple millions of dollars in debt for legal fees and additional millions in expert fees and costs. In addition, after being arrested twice, jailed twice, and tried twice, she had suffered years of intense stress and emotional harm, worried that she would be imprisoned for the rest of her natural life for a crime she did not commit. Miss Reed suffers from both Crohn's disease and multiple sclerosis. As documented under seal with the criminal court, Miss Reed has undergone tens of surgeries to manage her illness prior to January 29, 2022, and endured a blood infusion just months before Mr. O'Keefe's death. In an aftermath of charges to arrest during both trials, Miss Reed suffered a well-documented exacerbation. Am I reading that right? Of her symptoms amid the stress, anxiety, and emotional and physical impacts of being wrongfully arrested, accused of murder. While fighting for her freedom against a corrupt prosecution, Ms. Reed underwent dozens upon dozens of documented medical procedures and treatments to attempt to address her health issues. The defendants concocted a plan, executed that plan, and framed an innocent woman, and they are now responsible for these extraordinary damages Ms. Reed has suffered at their hands. The House defendants continued to execute on their strategy of misdirection and dishonesty for years after Mr. O'Keefe's death. For example, on April 10th, 2023, 2 agents from a separate law enforcement agency, the FBI, made an unannounced visit to Jennifer McCabe at her home. She initially lied to these agents when she answered the door saying that she was Nicole Albert. What? Wow. In Lemonade, Mia... Oh, Mike Cryford. Okay, thank you. Member for 5 months. I love it. Yes. Exasperation. Why could I not pronounce that? That is so fucking weird, man. Like, I swear to God, like, I probably have like a brain tumor or something. Like, where I'm just getting dumber and dumber. Mike Cryford. She then asked the agents to wait 10 minutes while she got ready after lying to them, saying she was Nicole Albert. Afterwards, when asked by agents, McCabe first told them she had called her husband, House defendants Matt McCabe and Carrie Roberts. But after a separate law enforcement agency, agents warned her of the penalties for lying to federal officers. McCabe then revealed that she had contacted John O'Keefe's mother, the NDAO, and Brian Albert. Like, dude, that's some fucking specific behavior right there. We all know what kind of behavior that's indicative to, right? We know. Do I have to? I think I do.
Yes! I like it.
Like, who lies to the feds, bro? They show up at your house and you lie to the feds. Are you fucking retarded? You got to be a crackhead. McCabe made sure to warn other House defendants immediately, like Brian Albert and Matthew McCabe, and that another agency was asking questions. The coordination between the House defendants and MSP Proctor, Bukaki, and Tully was also not short-lived. For example, In the evening of September 25th, 2023, McCabe visited Proctor's house. This visit by a key witness in a murder case to the home of the lead investigatory is not explained or even acknowledged or mentioned in any MSP report. In fact, Reed's criminal defense team only learned of McCabe's visit to Proctor's house when a photo of her Jeep was publicized by an award-winning independent journalist, not a blogger. Furthermore, in 2024, on the eve of Miss Reed's first trial, Ms. Reed's team learned that Matt McCabe had visited CPD Sergeant Michael Lenk, who was the ranking CPD officer on scene on January 29th at his personal residence at 5:43 p.m. on January 30th, 2022, and stayed until 6:28 p.m. It was only after Ms. Reed's attorney shared this data with the Commonwealth 2 weeks before McCabe's trial testimony that Tully met with members of the NDAO and McCabe to discuss her visit to Sergeant Lank's home. Neither Tully, Proctor, nor any other trooper memorialized this meeting or McCabe's visit to Sergeant Lank's home. Oops. Furthermore, McCabe later testified on May 21st, 2024, that she went straight to Sergeant Lank's home from One Meadows on January 30th. But her cellular data shows that too was false, also known as a fucking lie. McCabe's phone shows that she stopped at 34 Fairview Road from 5:36 p.m. to 5:40 p.m. And even after the case was filed, some of the investigators have continued to coordinate and work with the House defendants. For example, in the fall of 2025, defendant Bukaki repeatedly fundraised for the House defendants on social media sites. He urged support for the House defendants against Miss Reed's evil chaos and lunacy. Wow, that's called slander. Proctor wrote more than 1/3 of the police reports on this case, testified at the state grand jury 3 separate times, interviewed every member of the Albert and McCabe families, had possession at least until March 14th, 2022. Of all of John O'Keefe's clothing and all of the taillight pieces found broken from the housing processed, Mr. O'Keefe's Chevrolet Traverse the day after Miss Reed was arraigned had access and reviewed all the ring videos, had access and reviewed the surveillance from C.F. McCarthy's, had possession of all the CPD Sally Port and driveway videos and numerous other critical investigative activities. And yet, once evidence of Proctor's conflicts and lies became public, he was extradited from this case. Extricated. Never even heard of that word. Extricated from this case in an effort to hide him from the jury and sanitize the compromised investigation, while Miss Reed was forced to trial not once, but twice. Ultimately, Michael Proctor was relieved from duty and transferred out of the detective unit of the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office on July 7th, 2024, mere days after the conclusion of Miss Reed's first trial. Proctor was terminated from the MSP on March 19th, 2025, upon a release from the district attorney of more implicating text messages from Proctor's phone. On October 18th, 2025, Proctor officially withdrew his appeal with the Civil Service Commission. Extricated, whatever. Dude, I'm never going to use words like that in my life. You know why? Because I don't have to, okay? I'm never going to use words like that in my fucking life, bro. The only fucking purpose of knowing that word serves is to be able to read this shit without sounding fucking retarded, okay? That's it. It's the only purpose it serves. Anyway. On September 23rd, 2024, an MSP internal affairs investigation found Yuri Bukaki failed to perform his supervisory duties in an ongoing investigation. On July 7th, 2025, Bukaki was transferred out of the NDAO detective unit and reassigned to an administrative role in another division. On October 18th, 2024, Brian Tully was disciplined and reassigned from SPDU and stripped of his detective designation. Tully was given special dispensation, okay, shut the fuck up, by Norfolk County District Attorney Michael Morrissey to continue detective work on the Reed case despite his demotion because of his behavior on the case. Imagine that. Upon information and belief MSP troopers David DeChico and Jeffrey Kakowski were also disciplined for their misconduct associated with MSP's investigation of Miss Reed. Nearly every instance of such discipline in Proctor's unit occurred before this case was even fully adjudicated in the second trial. Proctor himself admitted to a trial board in March of 2025 that he informed his superiors Bukaki, Fanning, and Tully on February 2024 before the first trial that he had testified before a berating U.S. attorney regarding the prejudicial messages on his phone and his relationship with the Alberts. Nevertheless, no member in Proctor's chain of command in the MSP sought to discipline these individuals until after Miss Reed stood trial. Amazing. Amazing. The preceding paragraphs are incorporated herein by reference. Proctor, Bukaki, and Tully violated Miss Reed's Fourth Amendment rights by engaging in a malicious prosecution of Miss Reed by causing her to be seized pursuant to legal process unsupported by probable cause. The criminal proceedings against Miss Reed terminated in her favor when she was acquitted of murder, manslaughter, and leaving the scene of an accident with a death. Proctor, Bukaki, and Tully caused Miss Reed to be seized without probable cause, as described above, including but not limited to by A, leading, handling, and participating of the O'Keefe investigation, even though Proctor was conflicted due to personal relationships with various witnesses, suspects, and potential suspects, which conflict led to Miss Reed's unlawful treatment. Handling the investigation, B, even though Proctor had an extreme and personal negative bias towards Karen Reed, which bias led to Miss Reed's unlawful treatment. C, violating MSP's rules, policies, and procedures in all aspects of the investigation, and I mean all. D, planting, fabricating, and manipulating evidence, falsifying documents, preparing false affidavits, and committing perjury. E, failing to secure evidence and the crime scene, obtain evidence, timely and appropriately interview suspects, and investigate the Alberts, McCabe's, or Higgins, and allow them to destroy potential exculpatory evidence. F, as in fart. F, as in fart. I'm such a child. Failing to consider and present exculpatory evidence to prosecutors and the grand jury investigating Mr. O'Keefe's death, such as the evident dog bite injuries on Mr. O'Keefe's arm and evidence that his injuries were caused by an altercation and not a vehicle strike, such as the lack of lower body trauma. Following her indictment by a grand jury, Miss Reed was rearrested without probable cause, forced to pay a $100,000 bond to be released from custody, and required to comply with numerous pretrial release provisions. These post-arraignment deprivations of her liberty constitute seizures under the Fourth Amendment. Those deprivations continued during Miss Reed's second trial, in part because of Proctor's false memory at Miss Reed's first trial. Among other things, Proctor falsely testified that A, when he first saw the taillight on Miss Reed's car on Miss Reed's parents' house in Dighton, it had large pieces missing, and the shattered taillight displayed at the first trial as photographed on February 1st, 2022 was in the same condition as on January 29th. B, he and Bukaki never touched any part of Miss Reed's vehicle when it was stored in the CPD Sallyport. C, he retrieved taillight pieces on subsequent searches at the Alberts home when he knew he had deposited or arranged for someone to deposit taillight pieces at the property. So like either he did it or had somebody else do that shit. D, Chris and Julie Albert were his loose acquaintances rather than friends. And E, his statements in sworn affidavits, all claiming the Lexus was seized at 5:30 p.m. and that he arrived in Dighton at 4:30 p.m. were typos. Bullshit. Thus, Proctor, Bukaki, Tully, acting under color of law, violated Miss Reed's Fourth Amendment rights against unreasonable searches and seizures. As a proximate result of this misconduct, Miss Reed was wrongfully prosecuted for Mr. O'Keefe's death and made to defend herself in 2 trials in the Superior Court for Norfolk County, resulting in the loss of employment, reputational damages, and millions of dollars of legal expenses, as well as serious emotional and physical distress and injury. In addition to an award of damages for these harms, Ms. Reed is entitled to her attorney fees under blah, 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 cost, interest, and punitive damages. Absolutely. I completely agree. The preceding paragraphs are incorporated herein by reference. A supervisor is liable under blah, 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 when the supervisor trains, hires a subordinate with deliberate indifference towards the possibility that the subordinate deficient performances will result in deprivation of an individual's constitutional rights. Bukaki and Tully knew, or should have known, that there was a grave risk that Proctor would fail to investigate the Alberts with whom he had close personal relationship which had been disclosed. They also knew, or should have known, that there was a grave risk Proctor would wrongfully seek to have Miss Reed charged, given the manifest bias evidenced in his text messages, which were sent to Bukaki, among others. Bukaki and Tully could have taken easily available steps to avoid a constitutionally deficient malicious prosecution of Miss Reed. Those measures include, but are not limited to: 1, replacing Proctor with an unbiased investigator that had no personal relationship with anyone involved in Mr. O'Keefe's death; 2, safeguarding a crime scene, the physical evidence, including Mr. O'Keefe's clothing and 47 pieces of taillight material and 19 pieces of glass from various sources to prevent anyone from planting, manufacturing, or manipulating evidence; 3, initiating timely searches at the Alberts home; and 4, quickly seizing the cell phones and other forms of electronic evidence in the possession of the McAlberts and Higgins, which would have prevented the later manipulation and destruction. By not taking these measures, Bukaki and Tully permitted Proctor and Tully permitted Buchanan to violate Miss Reed's Fourth Amendment rights against unreasonable searches and seizures, and thus themselves violated Miss Reed's Fourth Amendment rights. In these ways and others, Bukaki's conduct constituted condemnation of, or I don't know how to say that word, to Proctor's behavior, or gross negligence amounting to deliberate indifference. In these ways and others, Tully's conduct constitute condemnation of, or to Bukaki and Proctor's behavior, or gross negligence amounting to deliberate indifferences. I gotta fucking, okay. Exequience. I don't know how to say that word. I've never seen that word before. Mr. O'Keefe's death resulting in the loss of employment, reputational damages, and millions of dollars of legal expenses, as well as serious emotional and physical distress and injury. In addition to an award of damages for these harms, Miss Reed is entitled to her attorney's fees under blah, 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 cost, interest, and punitive damages. The preceding paragraphs are incorporated herein by reference. Proctor, Bukaki, Tully, the McAlberts, and Higgins shared a common design and acted in concert to frame Miss Reed for Mr. O'Keefe's death. As part of their concerted efforts, and among their many other misrepresentations, the Alberts, McCabe's, and Higgins agreed with each other to help tell investigators that Mr. O'Keefe never entered the house, and that they did not see Mr. O'Keefe in the house that night, and that Miss Reed made inculpatory statements on the morning of January 29th. When they made these statements, the House defendants did so only because they were aware that Proctor, Bukaki, and Tully would also act similarly by solely investigating Miss Reed. Proctor, Bukaki, and Tully knew, or should have known, that the statements made to them by the House defendants were false, and that obvious and easily obtainable evidence existed demonstrating Mr. O'Keefe went into the house where he was involved in a physical altercation during which he was beaten up, fell back, gashing his head, and attacked by a dog. Instead, because of their close personal and professional ties to the House defendants, Proctor, Bukaki, and Tully agreed with each other to use the House defendants' misrepresentations as their predicate for an implicit direction to conduct an investigation that solely targeted Miss Reed to the exclusion of everyone and anyone else. In furtherance of this plan, among other unlawful conduct, Proctor, Bukkake, and Tully agreed to continue handling the investigation through they had personal relationships with suspects in the murder, which led to unlawful and favorable treatment to potential suspects. To continue to handle the investigation, even though they had biases against investigating the House defendants because the House defendants' ties to law enforcement. C, to continue to handle the investigation, even though they had exhibited an extreme and personal negative bias towards Karen Reed. D, to violate rules, policies, and procedures in all aspects of the investigation. E, to plant, manufacture, manipulate evidence, falsify documents, and commit perjury. F, as in to not secure evidence in a crime scene. G, to not investigate and obtain available evidence or timely and appropriately interview suspects. And H, to not investigate the McAlberts or Higgins. The McAlberts coordinated their efforts through text messages, phone calls, and conversations. Higgins and Brian Albert coordinated their efforts through telephone calls and texts on their phones, which were later destroyed or discarded. Finally, Proctor, Bukkake, and Tully coordinated with the Alberts and McAlberts, through Proctor's sister, Courtney, who communicated frequently with Julie Albert. Oh, I said wife earlier. It's Courtney's his sister. Sorry about that. Acting pursuant to the plan, I know Elizabeth is his wife. Excuse me. Acting pursuant to the plan, Proctor and Bukkake interviewed the McAlberts in a cursory manner, and all the same location, midday on January 29th, and Nicole Albert on February 3rd. Proctor and Bukkake only interviewed Higgins once at his attorney's home and did not secure or search his phone or search for communications between him, the McAlberts, or the McCabe's. Proctor and Bukkake did not search the Alberts' phones or home where there was likely evidence of Mr. O'Keefe's murder. Brian Albert and Higgins destroyed or discarded their phones, destroying evidence of the murder and cover-up. As a result of the conspiracy between and among them, Proctor, Bukkake, and Tully never investigated the House defendants, and instead, Miss Reed was wrongfully arrested and prosecuted in violation of her Fourth Amendment rights. Proctor, Bukkake, Tully, and the House defendants acted in unison and had a peculiar power of coercion over Miss Reed because Proctor, Bukkake, and Tully were the state police employees investigating Mr. O'Keefe's murder, and the House defendants were able to direct that investigation solely towards Miss Reed because of their personal and professional connections to Proctor, Bukkake, and Tully, and their superior knowledge of police and criminal investigations as a result of their own work in and connection to law enforcement. Fascinating. But
Oh, here we go.
I think we got a super cat. Super cat. I think we got a super cat. Super cat. Super cat. Super cat. I think we got a super cat.
How dare you?
thank you, D. Klein. I appreciate you. We're almost done with this here, people. So hang in there. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. This is fucking great. I mean, this lays it out. This lays it out exactly how it's supposed to be. I detect no lies here. As part of their conspiracy to direct law enforcement towards Miss Reed, at least some of the House defendants provided false testimony at Reed's criminal trials. House defendant Jennifer McCabe also lied to agents of a separate law enforcement agency when they interviewed her in 2023 about Mr. O'Keefe's death and the investigation into it, and along with the other House defendants, took steps in furtherance of their scheme through each of Reed's criminal trials and in 2024 and 2025. The proximate result of Miss Reed's wrongful prosecution was her loss of employment, reputational damages, millions of dollars in legal expenses, and serious emotional and physical distress and injury. In addition to an award of damages for these harms, Miss Reed is entitled to her attorney fees under blah, 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 cost, interest, and punitive damages. The preceding paragraphs are incorporated herein by reference. Proctor, Bukkake, Tully, and House defendants interfered or attempted to interfere with Miss Reed's exercise or enjoyment of her rights under the federal and Commonwealth constitutions and laws through threats, intimidation, and coercion. Among other acts, by manufacturing and planting evidence, not securing the crime scene, and searching the Alberts' home or the Alberts and Higgins phones, and ignoring exculpatory evidence such as the dog bite injuries and lack of injuries consistent with a vehicle strike, Proctor and Bukkake caused Miss Reed's wrongful indictment, arrest, and prosecution, and thereby interfered and attempted to interfere with her rights under the Fourth Amendment to the United States Constitution and Article 14 of the Massachusetts Declaration of Rights. By falsely representing that Mr. O'Keefe never entered the Albert house by relocating his body to the location of the Alberts property where they would claim Miss Reed dropped off Mr. O'Keefe, the Alberts, and McCabe's, and Higgins caused Miss Reed wrongful indictment, arrest, and prosecution. Brian Albert and Higgins also caused Miss Reed wrongful indictment, arrest, and prosecution by destroying or discarding their phones, eliminating exculpatory evidence. The House defendants thereby interfered and attempted to interfere with Miss Reed's rights under the Fourth Amendment and United States Constitution, Article 14 of the Massachusetts Declaration of Law. I mean, that's pretty fucking clear right there. Massachusetts Declaration of Rights, actually, not law. Ms. Reed's wrongful indictment, arrest, and prosecution were intrinsically coercive. God, I'm so dyslexic. Intrinsically coercive under Massachusetts law. Moreover, the House defendants and Proctor's, Bukkake's, and Tully's conduct amounted to threats, intimidation, and coercion designed to force Miss Reed to give up her defense and plead guilty to a crime she did not commit. As a proximate result of defendants' actions, Miss Reed was wrongfully prosecuted for Mr. O'Keefe's death, resulting in the loss of employment, reputational damages, and millions of dollars of legal expenses, as well as serious emotional distress and injury. In addition to an award of damages for these harms, Ms. Reed is entitled to her cost, interest, and attorney's fees under blah, 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 blah. All right. So, I mean, all of this is pretty much just like, so this is just stating like all the stuff we already read, and this is why she's entitled to this stuff. I don't feel the need to read all that. Jury demand. Miss Reed respectfully requests a jury trial on all matters so triable. So yes, I agree with that. I would love to see a jury hear this shit. I don't want just this to be up to a judge that could be connected to fucking Morrissey. I want a jury to hear this shit. Prayer for relief. Wherefore, Ms. Reed respectfully requests that the court grant her the following relief. Enter judgment in her favor and against each relevant defendant on each count of the complaint. Award her damages in an amount to be calculated at trial, along with pre- and post-judgment interest, costs, and expenses. Award her reasonable attorney fees incurred in connection with this litigation pursuant to blah, 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 and other applicable statutes and law, and grant her such other relief as the court deems equitable and just. Respectfully and submitted, Karen Reed by her attorneys, Sheenan Finney, Bass and Green, PA. And there's Damon and Charles and Aaron and and of course AJ. I mean, that's pretty fucking cut and dry, is it not? I mean, like, this is stuff that is going to be very easy to present to a jury. It's going to be very easy. to prove to a jury. So hopefully this is going to be a jury trial and not a bench trial. I mean, there's not even any reason to elaborate on it so much, because this is all stuff that was proven in 2 criminal trials. Like, there is clearly reason to sue these members of the Massachusetts State Police. Probably reason to sue the Massachusetts State Police themselves, but I don't think that she's doing that. But this is completely and totally fucked that she went through this. So the fact that they even, I mean, it's standard for them to try to fucking file a motion to dismiss, but it's not going to go anywhere. And this response is like, dude, we have all of this. This is what these fuckers did, and we can fucking prove it. And we're going to prove it. See something here. All right. Yeah, and guys, don't forget Sunday, 4 p.m. Big fundraiser on Mazza Media's channel. I'll be on there, 4 p.m. But yeah, man, I want to see Karen Reed smash these fuckers, bro. Like, that's totally what I want. That's totally what I want. Give me 1 second here, folks. All right. Let's open the phone lines, folks. Let's get the phone lines going. Anybody wants to call in, they can call in. See what you guys think. I mean, this is stuff that we all already do. We've been following for years, so there's nothing new. It's just really cool to see these outright fucking justifiable accusations. Like, Karen Reed is just not even holding back. That's what's cool about civil court versus criminal court. Like, you could straight up just be like, these motherfuckers did this shit, and we can fucking prove it. Let a jury decide whether or not they did this shit. I want a jury to see this shit. Dude, until somebody calls, I'm just going to stare at the fucking camera like this. Look at it. See? You guys got lucky as fuck.
Call from.
You're on. Who am I speaking with?
Hi, Will. It's Crazy Brazilian.
Crazy Brazilian lady. What's up?
Nothing. Are you still mad at me?
No, I was never mad at you.
Okay.
I was never mad at you. We love you here, Crazy Brazilian lady.
Okay. I hope you're not mad at me. I was not trying to tell you what to do on your show. I know.
That's
you get
not.
mad at that.
That wasn't what I was frustrated about.
Okay.
But I wasn't.
Okay.
I wasn't frustrated at you. I was just frustrated at a narrative that I was very sick of having to repeat. It was something that goes without saying. I wanted to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll like to apologize. It's not
No apology necessary.
okay. And can I tell you one thing? You know how sad the world will be if we have the same opinion
Of course.
and if we don't agree and disagree with each other?
We have to. We have to be able to do that.
I know. This story, like the civil court thing, we all know this. It's nothing. One thing that I will be very interested, because if you see the names on that deposition, Sergeant Goody, I want to know what the Lanka is not there, but Goody is.
For the
There's
deposition
something
in
there.
are you talking about this case, or are you talking about the case where Paul O'Keefe is suing Karen Reed? The O'Keefes are suing Karen Reed.
I think which one that has a deposition is that the
I think
Paul O'Keefe, right?
I think it's the Paul O'Keefe case right now that's getting the depositions. I could be wrong, though.
No, I know, but don't you think it's interest that Goody is there, but Lanka is not there?
Oh, yeah, maybe. I mean, we'll see. I don't know. I don't know how that works. But yeah,
Maybe,
you would
but
think that Lank would get deposed since he was the first officer to show up and actually walk into the house.
and the fact is that Lank was not on call for detectives. It was Kevin Albert. But Lank is the one that showed up.
Right.
That is going to be very interesting. That's one I'm like, when I saw Goody's name there, they saw something in his phone with Proctor. They must too.
I mean, possibly, yeah. I think that there's definitely something going on with Sergeant Good. I think there's definitely
that is not that good.
Right. Right.
Okay, no, that's all. I'm not even gonna go to Meredith.
I don't even know what's going on yet. I'm not privy to what's going on yet. I jumped in her chat just to troll her for a second and call her a fucking psycho because she is. And then I left. I don't know. I heard her crying and e-begging, and I was just like, dude, Jesus Christ, dude. Like, look at how fucking sad you got. Look at you. You threw your fucking life away over this shit.
I know. How sad is that? How should like
Thank you, Joanna Marie.
I don't. Thank you, Joanna Marie. I don't know what she did, but she probably did something good.
She's just a member for 3 months, and used her her membership chat.
Oh, okay. But how have you been?
I've been good. Got some got some exciting stuff coming up personally that I'm excited about, and I'm not going to get into it, but good stuff.
Were you the one that won $25 million on a Commonwealth Farm track ticket today?
Bro, let me tell you something, man. These live streams would be going a lot different if that were the case. I'll tell you that. If that were the case, shit, you'd be seeing a much different Clara show.
What kind of show? Are you going to take your shirt off?
I don't know, man, but I would be flexing. Maybe not like literally, but I would be flexing.
Okay. Have a good night.
All right, you too, crazy Brazilian lady.
Oh, by the way, one thing I have to tell you about your show. Are you there?
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I lost her. I said, yeah. All right. It's like she was like, oh, yeah, one thing I got to tell you about your show. Yeah, click. Damn. Fuck. All right. Sounds like one of my friends, some shit one of my friends would do. Like we have the hang-up game. We've had the hang-up game since we were kids.
Call from
Donald.
You're on. Who am I speaking with?
Donald from Rochester.
Donald from Rochester. What's up, buddy?
Good evening, Will LeGlera. How's everything?
Doing well, my man. How are you?
Good, good. I just got done doing a brake job on my daughter's car, and I jumped on. And what are we talking about tonight? I'm ignorant tonight.
Oh, I just read Karen Reed's response to the McAlbert's motion to dismiss from the lawsuit she's slapped on him.
There is so much to that. I got to catch up.
Yeah. I just read, I mean, 54 pages, you know?
Yeah, Jesus. I'll be repeating, watching this whole thing tonight.
Yeah, it's wild.
It's Jody 617 and my girl Jess. Hi, ladies.
Jody 617 and your girl Jess. Big shout out from Donald from Rochester.
It's there's other stuff going on with Kelsey. It's a crazy.
Yeah, but big win for her yesterday, man.
Right about that was fantastic. I thought I was watching Melanie. I was like, here I am, my construction detail, directing traffic with tears in my eyes.
Yeah, that's wow.
Good for her.
Yeah.
But you were right. I was watching you a couple weeks ago when he broke into that house. Firefighter, man. He's on pills and drugs. That's what he's in there for the money. You called it.
Dude, listen.
Donald, he's got drugs.
There's a reason why you're an officer of the law, because the principles of detection tell you that I am always fucking right. Okay, Donald? Like, can we agree on that?
Glare of the Law Institute and stuff.
The Law Institute, the Institute of Law and stuff, bro. Glare Institute of Law and stuff.
That's it, bro.
That's it. Exactly. How you been, man? You been all right?
I just wanted to call and say hello. I'll let someone else jump in.
Hold on, man. I'm not done with you. How you been, man? You been safe?
Oh, go ahead.
Been safe out there? You doing construction detail?
Yeah.
Hey, don't lie to me.
141 days left.
Construction on the road? Is that what they're doing?
Yeah, I direct traffic around like the Eversource gas company guys when they dig up the road.
Hey, be real with me. Be real with me now that I got you out there. They're not actually doing shit, are they? They're just fucking out there.
Oh, no. These guys work hard, bro.
They're working hard.
They're all subcontractors.
Okay, all right.
So these aren't city guys. These are subcontractors.
These are Okay, cool. All right, that's the way we want it.
Yeah. Sometimes I told them, man,
privatize that shit. Privatize the roads.
I tell them to wrap it up today. It's Friday. I mean, today's almost next Friday. Let's wrap it up. And they go, no, we gotta dig more holes.
Yeah, I love it. Donald,
here's the thing too. What's his name? Noonan. What's he doing details when he's out administrative leave without pay?
Yeah,
with or without pay. You're on administrative leave. They take your gun and all your police powers away. You can't be doing traffic.
What are you gonna do? Fucking blow a whistle? The fuck are you doing? You know what I mean?
But it's not even that. Is if you can't do regular police work, if you're still out on the street, something could happen where you'd have to do regular police work, but you've been on administrative leave from regular police work. He knows somebody. He is connected.
Yeah.
That never happens.
No, that shit doesn't happen.
And
they don't even give a fuck that the public knows about it either. You know, that's just wild about it.
That's crazy. But
yeah, bro.
Because if he isn't connected or being taken care of, there'd be 30 other cops going, hey, I need to go on administrative leave too and just get my regular pay. Well, I don't have to work, but I can go get extra pay, double time and a half. So there's
Yeah,
there's nasty.
it's a racket, man. It's a racket. Yeah.
That's I've never heard it in my 40 years. It's never happened. That's the only one person I've ever heard it happen to. So there's something bad going on.
Yeah, exactly.
It's gonna come out. I can't wait.
I'm sure it will. All right, Donald. Thanks, man. Appreciate you, dude.
I'll talk to you soon. Have a good night, buddy.
All right, my man. Stay safe. We love Donald. Triple dipper. Triple dipper. Yeah, man. I got like 10 more minutes, man. Y'all need to like call in.
Call from
You're on. Who am I speaking with?
Donna.
Hi, Donna. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm good. Just crazy Friday the 13th.
Oh, yeah. It is Friday the 13th, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I'm just like, can't believe all the crap that's come out about Kelsey and all the lawsuits and everything else. And do we ever think we're going to see the end of Karen Reed's nightmare?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's going to be a while, but for sure. Yeah, at some point, her family's going to be able to move on, live peacefully. Yeah.
But I am really happy for Kelsey today.
Yeah, me too.
It's about time all these privileged, connected families realize that the rest of us we're not going to take it sitting down.
No. Yeah. Well, that's great. I mean, that's what's lighting a fire under everybody's ass is you guys speaking up about it. You know, everybody's speaking up about it, talking about it.
But we also want to thank you for being the voice of all of us people. You, Turtle Boy.
Yeah, that's not me. That's Turtle Boy, and you know.
No, you do it. You do it. A lot of people respect your thoughts, and I just want to thank you for all that you do, and wish you the best weekend ever.
Right on. Well, thank you, Donna. Appreciate it. Wish you the best weekend as well.
You're welcome. You have a great night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I take one more call.
Call from.
You're on. Who am I speaking with?
Well, hello. It's Anna. How are you?
I'm doing well, Anna. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I got to turn you down. You're on my big old TV. There you go. I'll turn you down, but I won't turn you off, baby boy. Oh, that was terrible. I need to stop. Oh, Lord. So tell me, do you think, and I mean really truly think, not just like want to think, that Karen is going to win this lawsuit?
Yes.
I mean, I want to believe that so bad. I do. I want to so bad. It's just with how hoinky spoinky that place is, and everybody being in bed with each other.
As long as it's a jury trial, it'll be fine. She'll win.
Oh, that's right. The judge doesn't decide in the civil when he does.
Well, I mean, it could either be, I don't think that that's been determined yet, but they've requested, at least on her in her lawsuit that she's suing them, she has requested a jury trial. So hopefully, I mean, but yeah, I'd like to see that happen. I don't feel quite as comfortable with the judge deciding all of this in that town.
Yeah, because everybody there seems to just be jumping around in bed with each other.
Pretty much.
Figuratively.
Right, pretty much.
And it's a little freaky, and I also can't help but to wonder, with everything that's going to come out, there's no way that there's information that the good stuff. Do you think that when the new DA takes over, that Adam fella, hopefully, that they will like indict one of those creeps or all of them?
I hope so. I hope that there ends up being enough evidence to where they feel that they can and get a conviction. Sure. I mean, we know they did it. The question is whether or not there's enough evidence to convict them, you know?
And which ones of them actually did the deed.
Right. I mean, the evidence that we're aware of points to Higgins, you know? He had the motive.
My money's on other Brian, which is Higgins, and Colin. I am throwing Colin in there.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not ruling him out, but Higgins is the guy that I'm thinking is, I mean, he's on video being aggressive towards John, you know? It's like there's text data, there's motive, all that shit.
I mean, Bev and them basically put a cloak of invisibility over Colin.
Pretty much. I mean, they did everything they could to cover it up, but they could have been maybe they just figured, okay, he's just so fucking stupid. If we say he wasn't even there at all, he won't be in a position to where he have to lie and fuck everything up and sound stupid. You know what I mean? Like they were just protecting themselves by protecting Colin, you know?
He is dumb enough to sell his car for gas money.
Right.
He is.
Right.
He is dumb. Well, I don't know. I feel a little better now. I know I shouldn't stress out about it. It's not my court case. It's not my circus. It's not my monkeys. But I'm invested. I've been invested for a long time.
Yeah, we all have, for sure. Yeah, we want to see this through. We want to see this through. Like, I still believe in Adam Deitch. I think that, you know, at the very least, he's going to clean house and make sure this shit doesn't happen again. You know, hopefully. So.
I know. I hope so. You know, and I really do hope, because wasn't he involved in the federal investigation of the department being all queers?
Well,
I don't know.
No, yeah, he was part of the U.S. Attorney's office that was involved in the investigation into the investigation. Yeah.
So I wish I was not so like dumb to all this legal stuff, but wouldn't it be, I guess, allowed for him to investigate the people he investigated before?
Say that again.
Okay, since some of those cops and an ex-one, by the way, were involved in this business, and he was investigating into that, would he be able to investigate them as the DA?
Well, he's not technically investigating them. He's just kind of spearheading, you know, there are investigators involved in that. He's just the one who decides whether or not they collect enough evidence to indict and prosecute.
Oh.
Right.
Okay.
So he's not the one actually investigating. He's the one prosecuting.
I can admit I don't know much about the law, prosecution's court, and everything else, but I know horse shit when I smell it.
Right.
And then McAlbert was squirting out all kinds of it.
Yeah, for sure. Most definitely.
You know, I mean, the very first thing I ever saw of this trial I was scrolling through YouTube, and up pops Jennifer McCabe's snaggly little mouth. And I was like, what in the Samuel L. Jackson is this bitch? And by the time she was done, I didn't know what side she was on. I just heard her testifying and said, why is this bitch lying so hard? And I just got like into it from there. I was like, and that was during trial 1. And I mean, I knew by the time she was done testifying, never seen a thing about it. And I was like, this heifer is lying. I was like, good Lord.
Yeah, for sure.
And I had no
Definitely
idea
not.
who she was.
Yeah, she's lying for sure.
So, I mean, if a bumpkin like me can figure out that you're squirting some horse shit, then you probably are.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah, definitely.
So, I don't know. Well, I'm gonna jump up off of here. I love your show. I watch it all the time, every time, especially if there's a petty. Boy, get me involved.
Right on. Yeah, no, I love it. I appreciate it.
We love the petty now.
Yeah, man. I mean,
There are 2 people on YouTube that do petty better than anybody on this planet. That is you and Auntie Deb.
yeah, Auntie Deb is next level. For
Jimmy
sure.
will put out a whole album about your ass.
For
So,
sure. Yeah. Jimmy's
he sits down and writes songs about you.
Jimmy's
Jimmy's
a petty legend.
level petty.
Hey, he's a petty legend for sure.
Next level. He's next level petty. And I'll tell you what, there's one person that goes right in second place below you 2, and that is the Velvet Machete, Emily C.
Okay. The Velvet Machete. I haven't heard that one. Okay.
I believe that the girl
She's good.
off of Something
She's great.
Off had said that.
I just haven't heard the Velvet
She
Machete yet. Okay.
She'll rip you apart, but with a sweetness and a softness that you can't argue with.
Okay. All right. I like it.
And they had named her the Velvet Machete. I thought it was great.
Okay.
Anyway, you have a good night, sweetheart.
You too, Anna. Thanks for calling.
Bye-bye.
Bye. I'll take one.
Call from
Dave.
You're on. Who am I speaking with?
Will. Dave's not here.
Okay.
Dave is not here. It's Willie.
Okay.
Willie the bagpiper.
Willie the Bagpiper. Okay.
I will. My name's Willie too, and I have a tune for you.
Okay. Let's hear the tune.
Just give me a second. They're a little squeaky. They're
Okay.
dusty. They've been in the basement for a few months.
You've gotta be prepared.
That's it for tonight, Willie. I'll leave you to your show, your YouTube presentation.
Okay, Willie. Thanks for calling.
Hey, and we'll talk to you soon. Keep it real there, Will.
All right. We'll do.
We look forward to your presentations in the future.
I will.
Peace out. Later, man. Later.
All right. Bye-bye. I mean, you got to give it up for the bagpipe performance. That has got to be a first. Has anybody ever had somebody call into their show and perform the bagpipe? Folks, that's going to be it for me. I'm going to wrap this one up. I am really grateful to you guys for hanging out. Thanks for all the support. Welcome all new members. I'm sure there will be a petty stream in the works before the weekend is out. I can't imagine any reason why there wouldn't be. There's always retardation to cover. Anyways, I love you guys very much. You guys are absolutely fantastic. Remember, it only takes a second to stay safe, and we will do this again very soon, my friends.
Today, being retarded means leading a full life. Retarded people go to work or school, just like their neighbors, and come back to a real home. A supervised home, right in the neighborhood, where they belong. Being retarded never stopped anyone from being a good neighbor.